Oh, yeah. I mean, we're back. We're doing this again, right? How are you? Welcome back in. Hey, it's Wednesday, January 22nd. It's cold as balls outside. It's 2025, and you're looking at your boy, BC. Well, I'm not much of a boy anymore. I'm an old man. I mean, check out my fantastic old head. Hey, welcome to Campbell's Rambles, brought to you by Boston Scally, making me look great in this hat, and brought to you by my old ass. Hey, it's Wednesday. It's 4 p.m. Eastern time. This is what we do, right? I'm the proprietor. I open up this establishment, sip of coffee for the working man, stone cold. Yeah. I hope all you out there are keeping it together up here. All right. Maybe getting in the gym a little bit. All right. But whatever you're up to, however you're getting after it, get after it, right? Like, are you coming on? All right, come on, right? That's what I'm talking about. So I'm fired up. I'm excited. If you're new around here, darling, in fact, I was born a rambling man. So trying to make a living and doing the best I can. Hopefully the regulars are going to be here. Dave Sandine, Michael Carson, South Oregon Bird. I mean, Alan Dubs, right? Reggie Jackson, right? The whole crew will be here when these guys get off of work. When Saul gets off that damn roof in Louisville, he's going to be here too. So Mikey back with us today, back in the family, always has my back as always. And it's just me in my basement, ready to talk about combat sports, 90s NBA, 70s vinyl, I don't know, whatever you're in the mood for. That's what's going on right now. Okay. I'm fired up to be here. This is the Brian Campbell experience, the damn BCX, right? We're slowly but surely coming together and making this thing a real channel, one day, one video at a time. So how the heck are you? All right. Oh, sorry to hear that. All right. How's it, Look, it'll get better. It'll get better, right? No, seriously, how are you? I hope you're doing well out there. I hope you're as fired up as I am to be alive, okay? We go up and down in this life, right? But we keep going. That's the key. That's the key at the end of the day, okay? So I got good news to share today. I got some fun topics to throw around. Of course, we're going to open up the floor to your questions for as long as this goes 2-3 hours, whatever we got going on, right? Depends. If the people are still asking for their cup filled, then BC will fill it. That's how this works. What else did I want to say? Updates on the old channel this week. Kind of quiet, but if you have not checked out my fantastic chat from over the weekend with my guy, my guy, right? My guy, Showbiz the Adult. You may find his YouTube channel in your free time talking boxing. You may have seen his work on DAZN. A fun ass collaboration. So hopefully you enjoyed that as we looked ahead to the big boxing topics that are facing us as fight fans in 25. Turkey's takeover, all the stars wanting to fight each other, all that good stuff. So check that out. Of course, your boy BC got back inside the box after a week off yesterday and sat down with that salty, mustachioed Rafe Buggs up there in Greater Detroit. So check that out as we looked at some of those huge announcements that Turkey's got going on, from Canelo Crawford in September to this 4-man tourney. More on some of that to come in today's show. It's an interesting time to put parts of your body inside the box, if you know what I'm saying right there. I mean, we got breakfast at Wimbledon Friday morning with good old Naiwa Inoue. So get fired up for that. I'll be up about 5 a.m. for that. Maybe BC should just live stream that, right? And on the crack ass of the morning, the butt crack of the morning, right? Top of the morning to you, me, you, Naiwa. It'll be in Packy weather. His opponent. It'll be great. It'll be a great time hanging out, right? So yeah, that's what's going on the BCX. I'll probably have some type of people know what I get down with here. This is the slice of life. My guy Marc-Andre Barriol here, fellow French Canadian, knows how to get down. Long Island Luke does too, with that late afternoon coffee. One of the pleasures of middle-aged life, as I'm finding out. Right? Yeah, I try to stick to that 1.5 cup in the morning and not do any more, because I don't want to become tired and addicted. And but this late afternoon one, it just hits you right in the feel hole. So Marc-Antoine Ducholet, say hi to your sister Zoe for us, and hopefully you're doing well. All right, so yeah, the channel is populating here and there. I had some fun interviews, of course, last week. Hopefully we can retool for the future to come here at the BCX. don't forget about Morning Combat as always this Friday, because we're back. We're back with a bang. We are not, not full power. It's not 2022 anymore in Morning Combat land, but slowly but surely you're seeing, right? 2 days a week now. Pre-game preview is coming back. Some good things happening sponsorship wise, behind the scenes, business wise. So it's all coming back to me now, right? You touch me like this, right? I mean, it was a condition consensual. I don't know, and I touch you like that, right? I mean, this is for Wednesdays, as Al Drum often says, are for the ramble. Okay. So thank you for taking a little time out of your life. I don't know where you are right now. You might be in the grocery store. You might be, hardly working, if you know what I mean, right? Sitting in the office with the headphones on, looking over the shoulder every once in a while, getting a little BCX. Friday's MK will be fun. Of course, we're going to react to Naoya Inoue on Friday morning. We've got GFL draft Friday night. You've got PFL Road to Dubai on Saturday with Usman Nurmagomedov against Paul Hughes. And if you have not checked out my interviews with both fellas, check them out here on the BCX. Very good stuff. A lot of trash talk going on, a lot of feels back and forth. And then also this week, I think there's a one championship card, possibly Friday night, and Knucklemania. I know there's a big press conference with Conor McGregor at it in Philly this week, and we're going to see Eddie Alvarez versus Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens. A fun event they got going on there. So good times for all. Thank you, Al Drum, for checking in on BC and showbiz. I think more to come there. I enjoyed it. I know his people did. So we'll see what that brings in the future. But please follow Showbiz's work. He's a charismatic fella. He gets after it. He gets after it. He's living the dream. So aren't we all? There you go, right there. We're gonna get to all of your questions, comments, takes, after the preamble ramble from your guy BC. But I start off with some breaking. Wow, look at this ticker Mikey's got going on the bottom there. I like that very much, Mikey. All right. All right. Some breaking personal news for y'all that I'm overjoyed about. I am injected with the performance enhancing audio. I am ready to bring the pain today, of course, on this chat. But how about 2 Saturdays from now? How about you get fired up for this? If you don't already know, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Saturday, February 1st, PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view. They both might be named David, but these are two Goliaths in the light heavyweight division as unbeaten David Benavidez takes on unbeaten David Morrell Jr. There's back and forth fireworks, a lot of talk. Check out the Gloves Off 2-episode series on YouTube that they put together. This is one of the better fights you can make in boxing, and it's a deep pay-per-view card, particularly the Stephen Fulton Jr. Brandon Figueroa rematch in the co-main, this time at featherweight, the fight of the year from about 4 or 5 years ago. Guys, I got the call. I'm on the call. Okay. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. Let's go to the bullpen. Let's get the righty. I'm ready. I am on the call. February 1st. Benavidez Morrell, Las Vegas. PBC on Prime. Let's go. Okay. Where's Long Island Luke with the horn right now, right? Jeff Horn. Hit me with the horns money, right? Thank you, Fuzzy. That's what I'm talking about. All right. All right. It's not just that I'm going to call Saddam Ali's comeback February 23rd in Brooklyn with Paul Malignaggi. How about your boy BC on Benavidez Morrell? In-ring interviews, color commentary, ready to bring it. Okay, so that's great. Great news to kick this off. Pep in my step. Thank you, Sandine, as always. Pep in my step doesn't begin to describe it. It's been a long, cold winter here, all right? Literally, figuratively, and of course in the career. It hasn't been easy in the fall of Showtime Sports and how we picked up the pieces from Morning Combat to boxing broadcasting to the day job. But we persevere. We keep fighting. We are hard men, right? Yeah. If you're a big fan of the Rafe Boog Show, you know what I'm talking about. A hard man. So thank you so much, Sean Nichols. We're going to bring it. Okay. We're going to absolutely bring it. John, thank you as always. They called, BC answered the call, Fuzzy. You know how I get down at the end of the day. All right. I'm here to work. All right. I'm here to absolutely bring it. So I'm fired up. I hope you guys will be tuning into that pay-per-view. It's going to be a great affair. Okay. Mauro Ranallo, Abner Mares, myself, cast of others, Brian Custer. It's going to be a great time. So let's get fired up. Let's get ready. Let's get caffeinated. All right. All right. Should I do the Elon? No, BC, don't do that. No, don't do that either. What are we doing? What are we doing as a society here? Okay. This will not be political hour on the BCX. You got to go Thursdays for Luke Thomas to find out about Palestine. But shout out to everybody. Shout out to Luke Thomas, a fine partner in this space. All right. A fine partner. I mean, really, what the hell are you doing, Elon? I mean, okay. All right. What the hell is going on? All right. I am not supporting this, but I am supporting what's left of my AG1 collection though. Okay. So shout out to Athletic Greens in the MK class. I'm still stirring up that green powder. All right. It's still filling me with vitamins. So there you go. All right. Trying to stay loose, trying to stay liquidated, trying to stay alive here. All right. Yeah. MK. That's how we get down here. Donk style. All right. Christmas is over, but it's cold as balls. Here we go. This is the show that we got going on today. Starring me. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe. I would say tell a friend, but it might be an acquired taste to hear me talk in circles for 2 hours. I don't know. I don't know what you're into, but if you don't like it, turn off your station. All right. Thank you very much. Quick question here from Lil Penny. Yeah, so I moved the setup again. So this is my basement office. I kind of flirt and float back and forth between these two setups. I got to move the bed, the record players, all that stuff. But I did it again. It was time for a change. So you've got to rearrange. So we're back on this side of the room. Shout out to the MK. Shout out to Jay Paquette for hooking me up with these fantastic signs. I got a giant Morning Combat black cast iron sign there with the letters cut out over my workout bench over there. Shout out to Jay Paquette on that one. So yeah, no more Pac Marquez 4 is over on that side of the room. Enough of that BS. Let's get into the topics today to kick it off. Number one, it's, we're days later, but I just, yesterday had my updated pound for pound top 10 rankings in MMA on CBS Sports. And I got to give a lot of love and respect out there to Merab Dvalishvili. And there has been a fallout sort of storyline. I think Ariel's covered it well on his show. And I think today even he got a text message from Andy Foster of the State Athletic Commission in California about what's going on, about the injury. And was it, did Merab pull a fast one by showing one leg and not the other? But Merab's now number 4 pound for pound on my list. It goes like this. It goes Islam, Ilya, Alex Pereira, hard luck number 3 for Alex Pereira, who could be number 1 on anyone's list and that would not have a problem. Merab 4, John Jones, DDP rounding out the top 6 right there. We were wrong. And it's not like we were way off. I mean, Umar for 2 rounds looked to have the better of Merab. But it's that special skill that Merab brings to the table that is just absolutely insane. It's not just the cardio. It's sort of an all-encompassing craziness that Merab is able to harness to get the best out of himself at the end of the day. And I didn't think he was going to do it against somebody this skilled in this shape with this last name, with this ability. But I think at the end of the day, even though Umar's body is a wonderland and he looks like he could do, back-to-back marathons, even he, on the very elite level in a 5-round technical thriller, was like gasping for air in round 4. It's not just the stamina at the end of the day. And I don't want to diminish what Merab's doing by just basically saying, yeah, well, he's not finishing people and he's not outskilling them. He's just outlasting them. Well, that's certainly a hell of a skill, but it's really all encompassing when you figure out all of the things. Did I think, and did I spend a lot of time talking about it coming in, that, it felt like Merab had everybody in his head, had Umar, had Habib, had all of them in his head. And yet he turned out to be one of those people who can take the chaos around them and funnel and fuel it into focus, into absolutely bringing it. So he takes the constant distractions, even if they're self-caused, meaning that, look, Merab's a wild card. And the thing I think that we need to appreciate more and love about him was that he tells the truth all the time. He's real, even if it's not the company's truth in that moment. And I thought was a little surprised that he in every turn was like, yeah, I don't think Umar should be in this fight. He hasn't earned it. He's only here because of Habib. And oh, by the way, the company pushed me into this. I was hurt. I wasn't ready, all that. And he put all of that on his back and still persevered. And then you find out about that wild cut on his shin that we still don't really know what happened. I think he told the story that he may have fallen on the stairs at the PI. Did I just make that up? I'm not sure. He's got this wild ass cut, which is limiting his sparring, and they're not sure if he's going to be cleared. And then he reveals, I've got a broken back. And I'm sure it's not, broken in the traditional sense, but we really need to zoom in and really focus more and appreciate this man is built different. And built different isn't just the insane cardio. It isn't just the absolute wild man. Yeah, broken back. There's one word you can say to that, John. Spinal. Thank you very much. Okay, indeed. It's not just the politics in the sport he overcame. Basically saying, okay, you really need me, UFC? Then no matter what, you changed my life. I'm going to help you. I'm going to do this. He had like a legitimate back injury to the point that Joe Rogan in the post-fight interview, mid-question, mid-answer was like, stop talking about that. like there's only so much, Merab, we can tell the public about how much you shouldn't have been in this fight, yet you push through, even though Conor pulled out with a broken toe last year and Arman pulled out with the back injury. And I'm not here to point fingers and say he did it and you didn't. I don't know the extent and the degree of the bad weight cut for Arman, the back injury, all of that. But none of that mattered. You may have heard Merab whine about it, and he did. He brought his frustrations to the forefront anytime he had a microphone in front of him. But his ability to use all of that as fuel and persevere, it really proves the point of built different. He's built different physically, he's built different emotionally, and he's really found a way to max out his skill set. And it's not like he's unskilled, he's better at striking, than he was in the beginning. There's a lot of little parts of his game that certainly help him in that regard, where he's been able to raise himself to elite. He's not just somebody you're like, well, he's just a spammer of takedowns and that's it. He's going to beat you that way. If he was, he would get picked apart and solved. But he's on a 12-fight win streak. We're talking more, of course, about Islam's 15-fight win streak because he's one shy of tying Anderson Silva, and Islam is basically ready to grab the gates and pull himself through. Like, imagine me at the top of a water slide, and it's like the ladder up is like, I'm a good UFC fighter. I'm a great one. I'm a champion. But you want to be an all-time great, because when you're at the top on a cruise ship or you're at the water park with the kids, it doesn't matter how old you are. You still got to jerk yourself in there and get the best possible pull you can to explode through there. Islam's about to explode through there and become an upper room all-time great. Yet Merab's got 12 wins in a row. Over the last 2 years, the deepest and best division in the sport. And every single matchup, we're able pre-fight to talk ourselves into why his skills probably won't just match up. Yeah, I know I'm all over the place, John. Jerk and explode, clean and jerk, dirty and jerk, however you want to get down. All right. I'm really blown away. No excuses maybe he made a bunch of excuses in terms of the interviews where he's complaining about things, but to just push all that BS away and handle his business. And now you look at the last 2.5 years. I know we talked about this in MKM Monday, but it just needs to be said again because I had to open my eyes to this. After that crazy fight with Marlon Moraes, in which Merab should have been knocked out in the first round and took an absolute beating, yet stayed the course, gets a stoppage win. He goes on a run of beating Jose Aldo. Who else we got? Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley for the championship, and unbeaten and betting favorite Umar Nurmagomedov. This is really special stuff right here. And this is a guy that wasn't overly hyped as the next great thing, the Aaron Pico, the next in line on the Dagestan legendary regime. This is a guy who came to, on the regional scene for Dana White looking for a fight, and they watched him do a spinning back fist and knock out Rafion Stotts, and he, gets an opportunity. And it seems like Merab in real life is a freaking handful. It's not just, I asked permission to get on Fiona there. By the way, pause. Not in the Diddy sense, but in the sense of you guys actually, I'll pause that conversation because I want to get to what Brantendo's saying here. Brantendo. That guy, that's one of our guys, okay? A high-level supporter, an athletic supporter, okay? A real jockstrap, this guy. Thank you, Brantend. Is the answer to the Dagestani style of wrestling spamming them with takedowns, or is Merab just built different? I think it's both, Brantend, because I think you could argue that the best way to beat that, it's sort of like the old basketball adage, teams who press hate to be pressed. You know what I mean? There's some of that in boxing too. If you're a pressure fighter, sometimes the best way to meet that is with pressure. Maybe the best way to try to overcome the advantages of the Dagestani style is to just spam them and gas them out. But here's the problem. You got to be built different like Merab to execute it. And it's just wild. It's wild. It's freaking wild. So he may not be getting the attention of Islam and all this. Yet at 34, nobody's favorite, stood on his business and said, no, I'm not fighting my teammate Aljamain. So that, cost him a little more in terms of waiting in line. Got his opportunity, beat killer after killer, wins the championship at the Sphere, now goes to the opening of the Intuit Dome for MMA and does it again against a royal family member. So, what are you trying to say here, BC? Well, I'm just talking in circles. That's what I do on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. All right. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say that I didn't even fully recognize his greatness. And I was caught up too much. Maybe I'm still caught up in that in a fighter like Bilal Muhammad, who I'm just still constantly underrating and putting limitations on how he can win, because sometimes it's hard to see the truly elite things that he does bring to the table, because for a guy like Bilal, it can be a little bit, it's more intangible based. It's smartness. It's this, it's that. It's not just, oh, that guy's incredible striker, or that guy's a wrestling spam machine and will wear you out. Merab just keeps finding a way, and there is a skill in that. There's absolutely a skill in that. So I don't know physically how long it can last. It seems like in his personal life, he's hanging off the ceiling. He's doing backflips. He's always got 6 women in his arms. But this guy, whether he was working construction and doing spinning wheel kicks into the walls, great old school video there, he may not have grown up wrestling a bear, but this guy is a character like Yeri, who's his own unique character. So, hey, Luke Thomas, let this guy cook. Let him be weird. Stop getting on him about that comment about going to 185. We also have to take Merab and appreciate what we have here. So, big up to Georgia, not the state, right? Even though I like Jed Meshew, even though I partner with Luke Thomas, even though I get down with MK hardcore fan Russell from Georgia with the Elvis impersonator handling his Vegas wedding. I'm talking about the other Georgia, right? That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah, here we go. That's topic 1. Topic number 2. There's a lot, and I don't want to go through it again, because it's like, how many shows in a row can I, right? I sat down with Showbiz. I had Luke Thomas and I talking about it on Monday. I had Rafe Boogs on this channel yesterday. But obviously the teases, the speculation that something really, really, really big is coming in boxing this year, and that Turki Al-Sheikh is going to be the funding or the lighting of the flame behind it. I mean, Canelo Crawford in September, all the other iterations. But it's this 4-man tourney potentially, and obviously we need the fighters to win. So there is a danger, as I talked about yesterday with Rafe, in marinating, the old boxing thing you don't do, of announcing fights and then the winner faces this. Like, I got a lot of respect for Pitbull Cruz, because even though it looked like it was going to be Pitbull Cruz versus Ryan Garcia in the main event of this May card that Turki is going to launch in New York City with the Ring Magazine series and possibly in Times Square, which is awesome. And I love the idea. And I don't think anyone's done something like that for boxing in Times Square since that leg of the 2013 Floyd Canelo media tour, the one they called that fight. And if you forgot what made that pay-per-view build so great, fight not great, CJ Ross not great, but what made the build for that so great was not just Floyd moving up in weight against a younger but bigger guy, but the whole idea that we hadn't had a super fight since 07 Floyd De La Hoya. So it was, it was like, oh my God, this was special. It's going to be special when they fight in Times Square, however they're going to pull this off. And you're going to build to that hype of Haney Garcia too. And I get the idea of arguing and complaining, why don't they just fight now? I get that. They are both coming off the same level of layoff. But a lot of stuff happened since their first fight last April, from the lawsuit to Ryan's suspension to all the craziness in their personal lives and the way that they've handled everything. So Pitbull versus Ryan, yes, it would have been a better fight than the one we're going to get, but I love the one we're going to get. Hold on that. But I got respect for Pitbull because he's the only guy, right? Pitbull's got to fight February 1st, 2 Saturdays from now. He's on the Benavidez Morel, pretty loaded pay-per-view card against Angel Fierro, the Tijuana brawler who has huevos. So check that fight out. But he basically said, look, I don't want to go into this next fight where everyone's going to be asking me about Ryan Garcia. I respect the way he handled his business on that regard. But not everybody's going to love the marination system that Turki's doing, because he's just so excited to let you know that he's putting his plan together and it's working. And, you know, fight by fight, month by month, week by week, we got to decide as boxing fans, journalists, wherever you are, is this good for the sport? Because it feels good for the sport, right? Is it? We'll see. We'll see what the receipts are. We'll see what the pitfalls are. But for now, it's pretty damn great for this sport. I'm really excited because at its core, what Turki is doing, aside from taking the biggest fights that are so expensive and making them, like potentially Bud Crawford against Canelo, like Usyk Fury 1 and 2, better Bivol 1 and 2, like these fights that would have been difficult to make, but he's just like, no, I'll make it right now. I think even more than that is he's taking this young core. I know I fill your ear holes ad nauseum with this comparison, but the 80s, a great decade for boxing, came between two even greater decades of the 70s and the 90s, which had the two greatest heavyweight divisions, rosters, depth, star power, seminal events that we've ever seen. But what made the 80s special? In the latter half, Mike Tyson, absolutely. But in the totality of it, it's the four kings. It's Duran, Leonard, Hearns, Hagler. It's them fighting each other 9 times in 10 years. Also, obviously, it's the sport being on network TV, or replays being on network TV. But we've got our own, and it doesn't even have to be anymore the four princes, as Karen Mulvaney called them, or the five princes, because I throw Shakur into the mix along with Haney, Ragai, Teofimo, and Tank Davis. That roster's growing even faster because you're considering Keyshawn Davis. You're considering a lot of these other younger guys in and around this gap between 35 and 47, the money area of boxing right now. The one thing that I talk about on, the year end or the year ahead shows we do, what do you want to see in boxing in 25? I want to see this young core of fighters fight each other all the time and make legends out of each other, rather than following the last 15 years of boxing model of let me build my pay-per-view brand. I can't fight you until our pay-per-view brands are even. Why? Because that dictates the flow of business. These networks aren't going to pay the money that we deserve for us to fight on regular TV. So we have to wait to do this 2-network, 2-promoter crossover type of deal. So you don't get to see your best fighters in their seminal matchups until they're 35 and 36 years old. I'm glad we finally got Spence Crawford, but even that should have been 5 years earlier, like Mayweather Pacquiao. What I'm seeing right now from Turki is that even if he's doing it with the casual fan / fantasy football mentality / video game style of just, okay, who are these shiny fighters that I really like? They should just fight each other. You're fucking right. They should, Turk. All right. Because that's how you keep this sport afloat. That's how you draft new fans. That's how you put money in everybody's pockets. That's how you keep the momentum going. So even if there's a marination set up to getting there, which it could be a pitfall, yes, one guy loses. I don't love that system. But I don't hate that I do have an idea of how these things build. That Haney's going to fight a tough fight, by the way, in veteran Jose Ramirez in early May, the same night Ragai's going to fight my boy Rolly. And that in theory, the winners are going to face on pay-per-view in September with what in the co-main? How about Teofimo versus Boots? Oh my God. And by the way, both of those guys have awesome fights on the way to get there, with Boots fighting Staniosis on April 12th to unify the welterweight title in Atlantic City, and probably Teo fighting Richardson Hitchens, the unbeaten 140 title holder who just took the belt from Liam Paro. And oh, by the way, early next year, the winners on that card are going to face each other and the losers. We're going to get there because as of right now, if we're going to look at the five princes, they've only fought each other twice, and both times it's really because of Ragai. It really is. So now that Turk is like, yeah, I can't help but just be jumping out of my shoes. And even though, as I said, Ragai versus Pitbull would have been a better matchup, yes, it would have. It would have, because Pitbull, even with the, excuse me, I got to snot up here a little bit. Even with the troubles that Pitbull had at 140, losing that decision to El Rayo Valenzuela in the August 3rd Riyadh Season American debut there in LA, where, of course, Uncle Turk got it inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. I don't think he stepped foot in Nevada, but that's another topic for another day. They went to the bullpen like PBC did for February 1st and got your boy. They got my boy, Rolando Romero. And I get, for some of you, like, oh, wow. Rolly is this, Rolly is that, Rolly sucks. Rolly's not doing good of late. I'll admit that. He's coming off a shaky win, and it got beat up by Pitbull on pay-per-view and stopped before that. It's true, it happened. But this is already going to be a batshit crazy event, especially if it's in Times Square. And even though Ryan Garcia has come out, and we are seeing I said this about the Garcia on-po presser in December that I hosted in Beverly Hills. Ryan was a new man to some degree, relaxed, calm. He's doing that right now. And now he's telling media that he doesn't want to talk trash about Haney because the lawsuit is still active. I think that lawsuit's going to go away. I wonder if it's part of the negotiation. As long as Ryan obviously is willing to do the drug testing, then the lawsuit can go away. Let's get rid of that lawsuit and settle it in the ring. But even with Ryan biting his tongue, that's already going to be a batshit crazy fun build. Like when we did the year-end MK show and I said my best moment of boxing in 24 was, and I meant it. It was Garcia Haney won. And it was painful to go through. Some of the best things in life, whether they're some of the best art that you consume sometimes is painful to get through. But at the end, you're like, wow, that was an experience. I can never watch that movie again. I mean, who's watching? You can't watch certain movies twice. You know what I mean? Some of those are one and done. Schindler's List, probably one and done. Okay, great movie though. Great movie. This is going to be really wild. And now you insert Rolly, who is the perfect B-side. The absolutely perfect B-side. Not just from the craziness standpoint. And this is a great Bevo 11. You're right. If any person can out crazy Ryan, it has to be Romero. You're right. His trash talk alone is going to make this really fun. And it's going to bring out the craziness in Ryan. So even though Ryan brought a lot of bad stuff to the sport over the past year, from missing weight on purpose against Haney to the suspension for drugs, to the way he handled himself publicly before and after on social media, the N-word, I can make a list. We can make a list of things that have sucked about Ryan Garcia. He also has that Oscar de la Hoya spirit in him to make the best fights every time. And through the pain of the chaos, you get exciting, I don't know what's going to happen next moments. And maybe you could argue over the last 10 years of boxing, through the tail end of the Mayweather era, that even though we got big shiny events that got people fired up and even woke up the casuals from time to time, outside of individual particular matchups and rivalries like Triple G Canelo, which just felt timeless and classic to begin with, but like outside of that, and outside of some of these really big heavyweight fights like the Wilder Fury trilogy, you always knew who was going to win. You kind of always knew the results. It was dominant Mayweather. It was dominant Pacquiao, right? Like people are taking more chances now for sure in the matchmaking, but wild fighters produce wild results. And the best boxing is the boxing that's been dipped in crazy. Imagine like taking, you see the candy apple at the fair. In reality, the candy apple is one of the worst gotcha scams that you can have there. Because really you're buying it for like the first 3 bites of that candy crunch mixed with the apple. And it's like, oh my God, this is the gourmet best of all worlds. This is like regular life, but living it large. And then you realize I just bought an apple. You know what I mean? And I'm at a fair and people are eating funnel cakes. I don't know if I want this apple. I'm not going to commit to the next, and then you toss it, right? I don't know where I'm going with that. Right? I don't know. Sometimes you just get off the exit and you're like, yeah, I don't think I'm here. But Rolly Ryan is some crazy shit. And for as great as Ryan looked against Haney, timing him with that left hook repeatedly and putting through a performance that none of us saw coming, we don't really know if that's the real Ryan, right? That wasn't the same spirit that showed up against Tank when Ryan was a little nervous, not listening to Joe Goosen. I don't think that was the perfect matchup in the end, and kind of rushed everything and was a little reckless. And then, Tank is going to navigate and get you out of there. You add in the year off, all the craziness Ryan's been through, and Rolly is when he's, Rafe and I had a good conversation about this yesterday. Rolly's with Ismail Salas now, the Cuban trainer, who's a great, great technical taskmaster. But that ain't Rolly's game. And Rolly trying to figure out that game has not been great to watch. It kind of reminds me of the first couple fights of Johnny Walker when he went to Kavanaugh there at SBG. And it's like, you're trying to, wait, what is Will Hurt saying about me? BC's a wrestling fan cosplaying as a boxing fan, likes to build and trash talk. Oh my, you could throw those darts at me, Will. I'll accept them. I'll dodge them. I'll accept them. I think I just appreciate the spectacle. And I'm not in it exclusively for the spectacle, right? Like somebody like Luke Thomas does not want to hear about the fighters' personal lives. He wants to break down those X's and O's with with play and reverse and fast forward. And it's great. And I love it. It does great work. But yeah, I'm going to get fired up and enjoy the ride, the sauce that comes with these meals, right? The build to these fights. Yeah, you're damn right. That's a big part of the entertainment, but it probably became that because I became a boxing fan slowly in the 80s, simultaneously as I became a pro wrestling fan with the breakout of WWF and the WrestleMania era and the Rock and Wrestling Connection on MTV. That all happened at about the same time. So it would make sense. But don't dismiss Ragai versus Rolly. Maybe in the end, Ragai's going to knock Rolly out and it's going to be what it's supposed to be. And maybe Haney has more trouble against Jose Ramirez, but finds himself, gets a little bit of that mojo back, and gives us enough confidence that this rematch is going to happen and it's going to be awesome. Probably a perfect case scenario. But Rolly can win this fight. And I think especially if Rolly kind of stops trying to be a real boxer and goes back to being that sort of plodding caveman who throws bombs and he's unconventional. He lands something big on Ryan. Ryan does not have Ryan has a lot of will. Got up against Luke Campbell. Showed us exactly what he's made of. That fight still matters. It still needs to be talked about as his, before the Haney fight, his greatest performance and maybe his only great performance, to be very fair with you, considering the level of the opponent and some of the maturity that he showed in there. But Rolly could snap you right back into a playground fight in a second. So this is my Super Bowl. Let me cook. All right, Will? Don't get hurt here, Will. Let me enjoy this. Let me be like Miss Lippy and just put the glue all over my face. All right? That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the fight at the end of the day too. All right? All right, that's the second topic. Turkey's making a lot of moves, but Ryan Rolly is going to hit me right in the fill hole. You better believe that, consensually too. Topic 3. Then I'll turn the floor back to you and you can ask me to dance, all right? I will tear up the dance floor at your wedding. I'm not fooling around with that, okay? You're going to have it. You'll be in a position where you're going to ask yourself, did inviting me actually upgrade the entertainment? Or does this guy think he's the main character at my own wedding? That's going to be the debate that you're going to have. And I'm okay with that. Hold on. Will Hurt's coming back for seconds here. 100% dismiss Ryan Rolly. Going to be an ass fight and gross buildup. Will, the way you're speaking to me leads me to believe you didn't grow up eating out of a gas station for most of your life, all right? That's what I'm talking about. It leads me to believe you didn't grow up in the 90s trying to rent Faces of Death on VHS, all right? This is my shit. Thank you, Will. Okay, I appreciate you, by the way. I bring on the hate. Alan W. will call me out. Who's this guy, Vince Ventura? That guy's always calling me out. Bring it. All right, where's Al? There he is. A-Dub. He's back. He's back. Reggie's favorite. All right. Rolly Romero is going to be like De La Hoya Mayorga. If it turns out to be the best case scenario for Ryan, the promotion, Turkey's plans, and really boxing fans, because we want and deserve Haney Garcia too, yes, then it will. It'll look like either De La Hoya or versus Mayorga, or don't forget what happened before that, which is very similar. Trinidad versus Mayorga when Trinidad was coming back from retirement, needed a dance partner. Mayorga was like, I'll move up to middleweight to fight you, and I'll dye my hair orange, and I'll basically not train at all because I was in and out of law enforcement. So Mayorga in the build to that fight was in trouble with the law, barely got to train. Like the De La Hoya fight week, was reportedly spotted in the casino like the night before the fight, drinking with chicks around him. I mean, the guy's living the life. He's living the gimmick. He's Carlos Prates on steroids, right? But he provides that perfect B-side fodder in that he'll talk you into the fight and then he'll let your hero knock him out. Not let, but you get what I'm saying here. Yeah, Rolly is, in a sense, a modern Mayorga. There's no question. So Ryan should pick him apart, but that doesn't mean Raga ain't going to take a big one. It doesn't mean he's not going to get knocked down. Doesn't mean he's not going to represent Cumberland Farms. So I'm talking about, John, okay? Get on that. Indeed, all right? Al, how many whippets deep were you when you compiled HTYSTS this week? I think I was in the 8th row. No whippets. I mean, that's a forgotten, regrettable moment of the past, typically applied behind a dumpster at Arby's in Waterbury, Connecticut. You know what I mean? You gotta come to terms with your past, and I did that, Jay Ray. But who was going to talk about? I was in the 8th. See, you gotta understand. I get that a lot of you. So just so you guys know, and if you're an MK Donk, I appreciate the people that fire me videos in the Instagram DMs. That's where I get most of them. But I do have to say something out loud. Like 60% of the ones are ones that I've already played, and not already played 3 years ago, played like last week. So it happens. But number two, I get a lot of stuff that I'm like, you understand that video is too long, or there's commercial music in it, so I can't use it, or it's a little too dark. Because there is a line, and while I sometimes push that line back a little bit, and by sometimes I mean all the time, I still understand the line, right? Sometimes it happens sometimes. But so I'm programming to Luke's mind because I'm trying to get him to pop. And the pop part could be with hilarium, or it could just be with angry Luke make fun of a white person. I mean, whatever, but that's like, I'm the maestro, you know what I mean? I got to get this guy to play the note, right? Like in Whiplash, the incredible jazz drum movie. Oh my God, is that movie worthy of Academy Awards? One of my favorite movies of all time. Probably because the way that guy taught was the way I was coached growing up in every sport I played by Vietnam veterans with a pack of cigarettes rolled up in their sleeve and a bad handwritten tattoo. So that's how I got down, all right? That's why I'm into Ryan Roley. But, sometimes it makes me laugh, but it doesn't make any of you, but that's fine. That's fine. Did Ryan agree to the drug testing again? I think I don't know for this fight. I hope. I don't know the scenario here, but I have to believe that he's coming off of a pop. He's going to have to play the game, even with his issues with VADA. He's going to have to play the game, take the test, prove that he's clean. But my take on it. Maybe I've hung around with Luke Thomas for too long, but I believe they're all using, especially the elite. You get to the elite level, you got to use. Let somebody who's using beat you, it's at that point. All right, final topic here. And thank you for live commenting back and forth and playing co-host with me. I appreciate that. I mean, this AG1 goes down smooth on a live chat. I don't regret selling it. You want me to know what I regret selling? Lords and Lairds and predatory loans. Not AG1, brother, okay? Not AG1. What do you got for me, Al? You should steal the HBO championship boxing thing to start your show. I doubt they will even flag you. Yeah, I mean, I've already stolen apparently Joe Rogan's podcast name, so I mean, why not, right? Yeah, spike that, okay? I think it pairs well with tequila. By the way, not only do I have some fantastic tequila from Cuervo, I also got to shout out all the smoke, the fellas there, Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson. They have their own artisanal mezcal called Anillos. They sent me a nice holiday package there. Shout out to them right there. I'm definitely gonna get up and I'm gonna get inside on that. You better effing get inside on that, Joe Goosen, right? Tell them about that. There you go. All right. Mount Everest is covered in poop, I read. I didn't read that. Are you sure? That's interesting. All right. No, we are not. I'm no longer affiliated with AG1. I just have a backlog of product at this moment. Thank you. Okay. Topic 3. I swear I'm going to turn it back to you guys in a second. So what do we do with this GFL, the Global Fight League? All right. Alan, Joe Rogan still pushes AG1. I think he should. Look, I mean, maybe that doesn't do everything they claim, but it's not a bust. It's not nothing. It's packed with vitamins, okay? It's not going to cure your hangovers, though. It's not going to lower your blood pressure, but thank you, Alan. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what to do with this GFL draft. It's Friday night. I think it's 8 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be on YouTube, every social media streaming platform. I think even DAZN might be either picking it up or streaming it on their platform, which could be a tease regarding the future in terms of where they will end up. But, we got to wait and see. I mean, Eagle FC didn't end up anywhere but YouTube and maybe a money laundering place. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Other podcasts are pushing AG1. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. Okay. Two Chengs, why don't you break the big news? GFL got BAPA for their draft coverage. So shout out to GFL. Friday night, they're going to do the draft. Well, I don't know, 6-8 teams that their cities, franchises, and they're going to draft. There's 400 something fighters in the pool. They're going to draft 100 and something. So there you go. Their draft night coverage team, it appears, includes Mike Goldberg, Brendan Schaub. Damn. And I do have to shout out Alex Wendling. So I don't know if you guys know, Alex Wendling used to be a producer on MK. She did a lot of social media stuff. If you went to our first live show back for McGregor Poirier 2 at the Park MGM and the sports book there, I think a lot of you guys met her. She's gone on to do a work with Combate and maybe Karate Combat and some others, but she's a hustler. She goes after it. So I got a lot of respect for Al. So good to see her getting this gig. There you go. But what it's really all about is what JP34 is rocking out. It's the old guys, right? It's the old guys. So I did watch 9/10 of, is the guy's name Darren Owen? Is that the guy's name? So we got to stop and shout out to Mike Heck here. Darren Owen. Darren Owen is the GFL's face. He's the Dana White of it. So Mike Heck, you got to love Mike Heck. I have a lot of love for Heck and Jed over there at MMA Fighting, who have, been nice brethren to me, have had me on BTL, Below the Belt, whatever they call that show, which is probably the best show outside of MK in the world. It's a fantastic show. It's around the horn for MMA, and it's great. KC on there as well. And they're soldiers in this war with us. These are shark infested waters, but I love those guys. But I think Mike's doing a really nice job with the town halls now. Both of them with Don Davis. Now this guy at the GFL, I'm sure he's going to end up doing one with maybe like a Dave Feldman, and maybe eventually he builds it up. He could reach out to a Hunter Campbell. I mean, that would be awesome if that happened. But I think Darren Owen did a better job, like the second Don Davis interview, where I think Davis did a much better focused, calculated job of not coming across as a noob and really trying to sell aggressively that he works so hard and he's such a fan and blah, blah, blah. And they're listening and they're going to try. And I think in the end, there's still PFL. There's still I got a lot of issues still, but I'll applaud them on the improvements. I'll applaud what Don was trying to do in that interview. I think Darren Owen did a decent time here. Can we get Chatri on there, Sandine? I mean, please. Okay. Well, I had Chatri on my CBS Sports MMA podcast I used to do, and I thought it was a good interview. We tried to get him on MK, and then he pulled out, It happens. All right. Maybe he's afraid of Luke. I don't know. I would have been fine with him. I would have asked to get on that Apprentice show. You're damn right. All right. All right. So Owen, he cleaned up some of our issues, but they do have lingering issues, it seems. Some of it is, I don't think they did their due diligence nearly enough in filling out the pool of fighters available to be drafted. If I got some AG1 across my, you got to let me know. All right. I mean, that's what a friend would do. I just feel like they got an uphill battle. I don't like this setup. I get when this thing launched, we crapped on it. And a lot of that is because it's the old IFL playbook in a lot of ways. And I get what Darren was trying to say when when Mike set him up nicely. I think some of you guys in this chat asked the really good questions in that town hall that made it great. So I think I heard Lazy Bed's name, and I'm like, I know that MFer, right? It's one of my guys, right? The team thing, man, I don't know. It's like I want someone to come into MMA and be different, but I don't mean make the foundation different. You know what I mean? I don't mean make a house without doors. I don't mean what PFL tried to do, where there's just too much going on. Like, in their sense, the best thing PFL can do, at least they're starting to listen, but they're not all the way there, is just be as basic and simple as possible, and then let whatever your league is going to be organically become. Meaning, if you put your best fighters together and have them all fight each other for one prize, not 8 belts, 1 belt, okay? You don't even need to do the Grand Prix, although the Grand Prix could work in the right setting. We've been through that before. But it's just, there's too much going on. It's just whatever. The GFL feels like that from the outside looking in, because the team thing, I mean, like, it's nostalgically fun to bring up the IFL and say, oh, it was kind of cool. But I think we have to remember, we were so hungry for anything MMA at that point that was cool and it was different. It was, let's see this. And there were names, you know, it was kind of like the people that had kind of washed out even at that point from the UFC were in there. But in reality, like, was it all that cool and great? Like, what I want to see, and I've said it before, and you can put the stamp on that BC's too much about pro wrestling for all the reasons Will had said earlier. But be like ECW. Come in there with an attitude, with an aggression. Don't try to reinvent the wheel with your format, but have fun with the rules. You know, maybe go a smaller cage. Maybe if you're GFL, and I know they have to use the old names to bring in fans to hopefully see the young names. It's the old way you have to do it when you're an upstart promotion. But I'd almost prefer their gimmick was, we are old guy fights. You wouldn't call yourself a retirement league, a senior circuit. But what if you did a smaller cage, shorter rounds, change up the rules a little bit? That's the kind of stuff I kind of want to see. Like with the XFL under Vince McMahon, which failed after 1 year, what it never actually was. I was more excited. People, you ask my friends, I was so excited about the XFL because I thought Vince was the biggest genius ever, and he would find a way to make it so different in an aggressive way that we had to have it. Now, to the history of it, some of that did happen, particularly in production with NBC. But, and maybe that's a Dick Ebersol thing just as much. But ultimately, it was kind of weak second-ass football. I mean, they did have that opening thing where the ball, you know, you dive in the middle of the field and that guy hurt his shoulder on the first episode. Like, you know, there's a lot of BS in that. But, like, we thought they were going to come in and be like arch rivals. Remember that at Nintendo game or NBA Jam? And we could just knock dudes out or something like that, where it was just roughhouse and reckless. Come in with an attitude, something fun like that. Maybe some of the spirit that Karate Combat's trying to do with the arena that makes it look like you're in space and some of that. Like, come in with something like that. But so far, I don't know, man. So they didn't do their due diligence enough, what I was trying to say before. And it feels like some of those fighters are already under contract with other organizations. And some of these organizations have spoken out and been like, yeah, you can't have that guy. He's under contract with us. I also didn't love Darren Owen's answer when Mike Heck rightfully brought up Wanderlei Silva. And he's just like, yeah, we didn't realize he was a part of that lawsuit with the CTE and all that. But now we've made him a manager. So at least they corrected the situation. And I get that not all of these big name fighters, which they certainly used to announce it with the press release to get you like, oh, they got that guy too. Not all of these guys are going to even be drafted or even be a part of it. Because there's going to be 100 something drafted out of 400. Alan W. NFL ended up taking the camera. Yeah, the camera that floats above the ring. Some of the things they did smart. I remember when they got desperate and they started bringing in actual pro wrestling storylines, and like the quarterback would be caught with the cheerleader in the locker room. That was a little weird and sketchy, and they weren't going there. But ultimately, that was just second-rate football, right? Like, give us something crazy and different. The team thing is not firing me up. I'm going to watch this draft. I mean, now you got Goldie and Schaub there. I'm definitely going to watch this. I mean, are we going to get behind the team thing? I don't know. There's a lot of people who have great intentions, but they all roughly, like the one thing Darren Owen said in defending his team concept was he was ultimately like, how many others have failed doing exactly what the UFC does? In the spirit of that, I agree with, but he's talking about the format. But the format is what we love about this game. Like fights that have a storyline and matter with rankings are all building up to a championship. It's how you tell that story that separates you, right? There's everything. You got to have high production value. You got to have this. You got to have that. It's all part of it. But I'm going to give them a chance because they got old names. And sometimes you can make fun old guy fights in the right setting if they're young enough. Let's see what we got here. But there we go. I've talked in endless circles for almost an hour, sometimes forgetting what topic I was even on and getting off the wrong exit. But now I'm going to throw it back to you guys and field your questions coming in. So the super chat is on. Thank you. As always, folks, you don't have to put anything down. You can ask a question and get it answered anyway. I feel weird about this grift, but, it puts a little cashola in my pocket, and I'm down with that. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. It greases the hustle. AG1 running through my veins, right? Real quick before I get into your questions. I'll go on a RadioHead binge in the last 6 days. That just is, oh my God. And I've been lately trying to figure out what the best RadioHead album is. Not just lean on OK Computer as my number one answer and try to make the side argument say, hey guys, just maybe OK Computer is not only the best album of the 90s, but maybe the best album I've ever heard. Because there are times when you hear that, they're like, okay, this is art. I mean, what is art, right? Are we art? Is art? Radiohead's art. Shout out to Corey Marlin, MK viewer. I always bring him up. He's nursing an injury right now. You got this, brother. Okay, get after it. But he was like, we're going to speed this up. We're going to get into it. So I don't have them all, but I've got a pretty firm handle right now on the catalog. Pretty firm. Couple holes, but pretty firm. Guys, Kid A is the best album by Radiohead. All right, I got the Kid Amnesia double here, and it's just amazing with Amnesiac on the other end. But it's true. Put on National Anthem right now. I mean, just that's where it's at. Okay, but number 2, I'm actually going to move OK Computer to number 3. I know I'm speaking to like 2 people right now, so everybody else go drop a deuce or whatever. But in Rainbows is the second best one, and it's trying so hard to be number 1. It's from a different era of them. It's more advanced. You really just have to experience it, but you can't listen to it once. You basically got to carve out time and say, this is a relationship that I'm willing to start having, an investment. It could change your life, but as we speak right now, Kid A is the best thing they've ever done. You're going to have to be okay with that. All right, here we go. Let's hear from Dave Sandine, because when we turn the open sign, Dave Sandine's going to be one of the first guys out there. Like he's waiting in line for concert tickets at 6 a.m. All right. Hell yeah. Are you interested in this GFL business at all? Will you be paying attention to the draft? Yeah. So we just broke that down. Thank you, Dave, for your support. I'm sure you sent this in earlier, but I do want to see what Bapa's going to do here. Is Bapa moving to Austin? Is this a real deal thing? I haven't been up on the Reddits lately as much, but I'm sure some of you guys have. I feel like all the comedians, there's only about 25 of them, right? All of them are going there these days, right? All right. Shout out to T and Bosty too. Okay. Let's go to 4JA. BC looks like a CW sitcom Irish pub owner. I think that's really what this is becoming, right? This is our hangout. So we're serving drinks. Smoke them if you got them as well. But thank you, 4J. Hey. All right, let's go over to here. Marc Antoine Ducholet. That's my brother right there. Montreal's Quebec's finest, probably. BC will be shadow boxing in his robe in his hotel room the day of. I'm sure you're talking about Benavidez Morel. You're damn right I will. Guys, have you now of course it's going to sound like I'm shilling in a different direction. Normally I just shill for boxing here, but I'm going to shill for the PBC in this matchup. I got into the 8th row, if you know what I mean, and watched Gloves Off episodes 1 and 2. And they're shorter than the normal All Access 24/7, but it's narrated by Barry Pepper, who was the Showtime All Access narrator. It's got a very familiar feel. I'm sure you saw a couple of them that played ahead of last year's Prime Video pay-per-view offerings. This matchup is so great, as you already know, from a technical standpoint, from a critical standpoint, from, unbeaten versus unbeaten, all that stuff. But what has become of this on the flip side? on the meat side, on the, oh yeah, they hate the shit out of each other, you know, and they've already given the fun public moments of the trash talk at the different press stops, particularly that Miami media day thing they had there in that gym, in the famous gym that Ali used to train at, and that face-off ended because Benavidez came in their street clothes, went in Morrell's face, and Morrell's just talking that ill dung, as we used to say, Adam. And Benavidez, you could see it, like the change happened in his face, and he's just like, all right, it's real now. And he slowly, like I mean, the guy's pretty big. The guy's an absolute badass. He's slowly like taking off the watch, handing it, you know, taking off the attire. And then they start after him. And then he gives him the push, and Morrell throws the belt, and hijinks, you know, mayhem. And, you know, and then Will is on here asking questions about if BC doesn't even care about the fight. He just loves that these two men are ready to bang Tui, right? I mean, that might be true too. The gloves off is awesome. Now, obviously, those vehicles are so much more fun when you have trash talk built in, but they got it here. These guys are freaking hate each other, but it really spells out, I think, maybe the secret ingredient of why this matchup will be so great. And it's not just the contrast style and the hate and all that. They're so ridiculously hungry for a win just like this, that this is going to be the mountaintop of their prime moment where they are going to pour out the jug if needed in order to gain that win, or maybe, you know, lose destructively trying. I mean, this is going to be a thriller, and it's going to be intense, and Morrell is going to do some things to Benavidez that no one's ever done before. But when Benavidez isn't injured, and now he's starting to reveal that in that light heavyweight debut against Vodzik, which wasn't El Monstro, it wasn't the real Benavidez, right? It was a little more of safely box and win. Both hands injured. He had something else going on. It happens. It happens. Him healthy going downhill in the second half, we're going to find out what Morrell's backbone is made of. This fight is going to absolutely rule. It really is. So I'm already shadowboxing right now, okay? Thank you. Wow. Yeah. So good, right? So good. Maybe I'm alone in this. I mean, are you feeling what I'm feeling, or? All right. Let's go to the next one here. Perfect Speller. If BC got a green screen behind him, he could ramble from anywhere. The Smart Cage, President Awesome's mom's backyard, Ohio, the options are endless. I guess you're right. I guess I could do that. That would be pretty hilarious if that was my bit. And by the way, I used to have, so when MK, I'll say this about Jason Aaron, about Pennington James. This is my guy. Pennington James is my guy. Now, he did get booted from the show like he was drunk Janikowski kicking a 63-yard field goal, all right? But Jay's lasting stamp on the show was, I think he pushed us technologically, and he was a big reason why when our show launched, it was doing well, then the pandemic hit us right in the face, and we didn't really like sit on the sidelines. We adjusted quickly, and if you go back and look at those episodes, I don't even know if they're still there because some of the legal hiccup in transferring MK meant that we had to take down a lot of our library due to dated copyright content in there. But it was raw. But during that point, Jay had sent us green screen kits, and we were going to do something elaborate. I should do that with the Smart Cage and these fun locations that you're talking about, but I probably won't. And I'll probably sit here in the corner with these posters behind me, but luckily it's kind of artsy though. It's not bad, right? There we go. All right. Let's hit Hawaii hard here. This is what I'm talking about. Telvin Kipapa, one of the better Hawaiians in combat sports circles, right? Like I'll always say mahalo to Diaz out there in the MK Dead Wrongs. You'll see him every Friday. But Telvin and Bobby King and Kai Kameka's tattoo on Titi, keeping Hawaii strong, right? Like prime Leland Chapman. Okay. Best action star he has: Arnold, Sly, or Bruce Willis. This answer is going to come down to how well you guys actually know me, or how well you think you know me. Great line, by the way, from Delroy Lindo in Get Shorty. After John Travolta's character pulls Tony Soprano, Gandolfini, down the stairs, the bodyguard, and he gets right in Delroy's face, and he's like, "You don't know me. You only think you do. Hit the jazz music. Great moment right there. I'm a Steven Seagal guy. And I know the ridiculi. I know that. I even know the story of like he was the Aikido trainer for like a Hollywood executive, and they made a bet of like I'm so great at making stars that who's the most ridiculous person I know, I can make them a movie star. That's literally, along with the mafia money, because of the connection Seagal had, the perfect storm that allowed him to become who he was at that point in his life, almost 40 years old. Obviously, he's a womanizing POS, and he's ridiculous in many facets, including his constant ownership of MMA, things that he claims he created or taught the stars. But I lived that era live, and then in my 20s, bought all those movies on DVD and just watched them all the time with my friends deep in the 8th row. So these debates were had all the damn time. And, I'm an Arnold guy. I'm a Sly guy. I don't have a lot of love for JCVD. That's Race Guy. He's a big Van Damme guy. I got a little respect. I mean, I really like the movie with the Stanley Cup Finals where he became the goalie. Spoiler alert! Even though he was a security guard, sudden death, baby. Great stuff. And I F with the classics of Van Damme. And you know what? Bruce Willis does deserve more respect than he probably gets in this realm. Because you're always going to think of Die Hard, and and maybe you're someone like me who loves all three of those Die Hards. Was there ever a fourth? I don't know. There's always like extra bootleg ones. I mean, Terminator, they made a couple bootleg ones I've never seen too. I don't consider anything happened after T2, but maybe T3 will win me over. We'll see. But in their absolute peak, I'm still going to go Seagal. One of the greatest things I was ever a part of was in 2014 when Rafe was an editor at Grantland. Maybe it was 2015. Him and I co-wrote an incredibly ridiculous story about a Steven Seagal movie marathon that was happening at a like indie film house in LA. And we kind of wrote about the essence and ridiculousness and the aura of what makes Seagal what he was. I mean, he's absurd. I mean, watch him run in watch him run in Hard to Kill, and it's comical, right? But at his peak, what it takes to be in this role, where you have to be a believable, sellable badass, and obviously, body wise, it's hard for him to compare to Arnold or even Sly in terms of fit. You know what I mean? And by the way, Bruce Willis, we always think of Die Hard, but some of us only look at him as moonlighting, or maybe like me, it's like, man, Color of Night kind of made me the man I am. So shout out to Bruce for that. But I don't consider Bruce of this ilk, even though he needs more respect. This needs to be Seagal in this moment, and probably Van Damme if you're going to go like who are the four that compete on this level against each other of late 80s, early 90s, absurd, over-the-top 80s style action movies, though, that still retain not just a comedic ridiculousness, but a believability and a badassery. Seagal's prime, the movies are harder, edgier, and I think even though you can make fun of his personality a lot, his one-liners in these movies are great. And he's sly with the chicks, and then you turn to find out he's a monster with the chicks in a bad way, unfortunately. Poor Kelly LeBrock. But if you're talking about his core, like when he was on top of the mountain, because it became unraveled quickly, where he went from box office superstar to direct to DVD. Now there are a couple stops in between, but it was quick and sharp. And to his credit, he's lingered in those spaces for a long ass time. And it was the oil film On Deadly Ground that was the beginning of the end and was the unraveling, because he had gained so much control as not just star, but like director, producer, writer, like ridiculous. And he basically was like, I'm going to make for you the most absurd art that is me. That's the most Seagal there ever was, and it's ridiculous. But if we count the one right after that, which was the actual last stop of his prime, which was the second Under Siege, and we count Under Siege 1, and then we also count his 4 that he kicked off with: Above the Law, Hard to Kill, Out for Justice, and my personal favorite, Marked for Death. I will put those 6. It's kind of like the Van Halen argument we had, where is Fair Warning anywhere close to as good as Van Halen 1 or 2? No. But the 6 best songs on Fair Warning might be the 6 best you can grab from any. You know what I mean? Like it's that debate. It's the cream on the top there. I'll put Seagal's Cream against, get cream, get on top against anybody. And he's so cool / weird that he's going to get my pick as the guy. So he's the GOAT, Telefunky Papa. I'm sorry. His prime is the GOAT. He's a ridiculous person, but so is Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? These are the people that raised me. All right, there you go. Let's have this debate further another time. I don't know who's tuning out at all right now, but if you don't like it, you can turn off your station. Never going to stop saying that. Never. The Dino Don show sliding in. Not sure if you force fans to pay for questions like that capitalist pig LT. Yeah, I did make fun of that for a long time. Shout out to Thursdays with LT. I get the business now. I get the plan. All right, it is what it is. Dino Don. You don't got to put your shekels down. All right, I'll still F with you. But if not, who takes the win in their prime modern MMA rules? Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. No shooting star press allowed. Great reference. Great WrestleMania main event in one of the greatest, craziest moments ever in Seattle there, where Brock almost bit it. Probably should have never walked again. Probably, sadly. I mean, Kurt's smaller. Kurt obviously won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck and was a maniac of a person, not just as a competitor. And I love, by the way, his redemptive complete turnaround. Like I remember when I first interviewed him, when I first started covering wrestling at that level for ESPN in 2016, that was right when he made his comeback to WWE from that run in TNA where it was drugs and arrest and a lot of craziness. And it was redemptive to see him come back into the mix. And I thought he had a nice exit. He had a nice twilight there. And he's still kind of lingering in and out in the picture. But he crazy enough to get in there. I mean, that's why you got to shout out Chris Jericho, because he went apparently behind the scenes, he went after Brock Lesnar. Remember that SummerSlam match in New York? I was there in about 17, where the main event was Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, and the finish was, a quick squash match with Brock hard weighing Orton, and to open him up, and then the cut would bleed everywhere and they'd stop the match. And it was actually well written, to be fair. And Brock elbowed the shit out of him, and there was a massive pool of blood, and Orton was concussed like a mofo. And apparently afterwards, Jericho wasn't in on the finish, so he thought, Brock went solo, and he went after him, right? But that wasn't going to go far. That was like when, Shaq, when Shaq was playing in Houston against the Rockets, and him and Barkley had that dust up, and then Barkley threw the ball at him, and you're like, okay, now Shaq's got to come after him, And to Barkley's credit, the double leg, nothing a double leg couldn't figure out. Schaub was right. He did get Shaq down. He was able to survive that. In the end, I'm still going to go in an MMA match, Brock Lesnar, because I think it may end up looking to some degree, this is a crazy comparison, to Brock versus Randy, right? It may end up looking like that to some degree. Only Kurt Angle isn't as skilled as a, striking pure fighter in that regard. So you still got to go Brock, no doubt. All right, guys, we have a guest. We do have a guest. He just opened the door. He's here. Oh. All right, Reginald Jackson. I've told you that this gentleman, and I use that term loosely, has been he's been on the outs. I won't say he was on the auction block, but he was committing a lot of fouls, and he was definitely testing himself, the limits of himself in this house. But we weathered the storm. He's back on good graces. He's letting people sleep at night. He's limiting the violence that he's, performing on the other cats. But you got to understand that this guy's wired to dominate, his life, your podcast, you know what I mean? Just so your ceiling, there's no rules with this fella. So we'll be here as long as he lasts. All right, let's get back into it. Let's do it. Okay. Alan, what do you have to say? We hit that already. Love it. All right. Let's go to Arturo. This guy, AZ Ray Videos, lives in the UK, from Mexico. Loves it. Loves the fights. All right. Did you watch The Fire Inside yet? The new Clarissa film. Did a review on my channel. So yes, I don't know if you saw my interview with Clarissa on this channel or I think I did bring it up here many times. I did see the film. I had to watch it in order to interview her for the story I was writing for CBS Sports. And only this time it wasn't like, here's your laptop link. They like set up the local theater for me, just me, and a private screening. So my son and I felt very VIP'd in there as we got to turn around and, give the thumbs up to the guy up in the window, who I always assume is pantsless and smoking a cigarette, that we were ready to go. It's a really good movie. It is. I thought it was going to be cheesy, predictable hero movie. I already know the story. I've already lived this before. And it turned out to be kind of gripping and at times, raw. And it really comes down to the acting of the two main leads. And Ryan Destiny as Clarissa nailed it, as did the dude playing her trainer. So I've gone down this road and given the full review before, but I hope this helps people appreciate her more, especially what she's gone through to who she is today. And it's up to you if you want to appreciate her for being raw and real now, or you just look at her as obnoxious. And that sometimes, it's self-inflicted in that regard, but she's herself. So when you find out what she went through, you understand it. You certainly do. But good film. I hope people give it a chance for sure, because I don't think she's loved in boxing. But she's okay with that. She's still going after it. Like, are we all fired up for this heavyweight fight she's got coming up? Maybe not, but I give her credit for always trying to angle, what's the most history I can make? What's the biggest thing I can do? And I certainly give her credit for what she's tried in MMA. It hasn't been overly successful, but it also hasn't been a train wreck. It's a credit to her. All right. What do you got for me? All right, Reggie, you all right? You good? Okay. Who's the king if they're all princes? That's a great question of that group. I still think Shakur's the best and would end up the boss at the end of the video game in terms of like a pound for pound. Like, I think he'll end up being the pound for pound king. Got to make some big work in the short term, but I think he's ready. I think him changing promoters, like, he's fired up to come out. I think he knows what he has to do now. But my question, and I did bring this up to Showbiz the Adult in our fun and very colorful chat, was that Keyshawn might be that guy too. Like, and still, obviously, it's to be a big hurdle for either of those gentlemen to go in there and do it against a prime Tank or, or what have you, or somebody's. I mean, all of those guys are dangerous. That's why this group is special. But who's going to end up being the biggest star out of that? The one who's best remembered historically? Will it be Tank? There's a lot of questions surrounding Tank and how much he still wants it, where he's at. Is it just business frustrations, or is he really kind of getting, about to be done with the sport? So that plays into the matchmaking and how we sometimes critique him, for sure. But is he going to come around to Turkey and Riyadh season? I don't know. But thank you, Reggie, for your the role you played in this. Right now, I got Shakur, though, okay? But Keyshawn is making me... I saw his face, and now I'm a believer, all right? Without a trace, right? All right, let's clean this up. Yeah. Here we go. That guy, that's this guy's back. Eric, let me put some water on your balls. Obviously, you know that soundbite if you followed BC and Rafe's podcasting journey, but that is one of the greatest soundbites in boxing history. It came, I believe, at the end of the first or the third round. I forgot which one it was, when Eric Morales was upset by King Zahir Rahim of Philadelphia. Or what was it? Rahim? Yeah. Zahir. Yeah, I think that's the right name, right? I haven't said that name in a while. And good old Ray Torres translating for HBO in the corner. Eric, come on, let me put some water on your balls. I mean, it's iconic. Just like, hey, that black guy, he hits hard. Another great one. That one was from the Mayorga Vernon Forest part 1. Hold on, I gotta close this door. Reggie's killing me here, right? All right, talk about yourselves in the meantime. So here, Rahim, yeah, tell Two Changs, tell people about that. All right. All right. There we go. Great stuff right there. Thank you. All right. Reggie's making some weird noises. So he was eating the tree. I told you this during December. He was eating the Christmas tree, the fake snow on it every day. Couldn't stop him. Spray the apple spray, doesn't matter. he's congested still from that. I'm scaring Reggie. You're scaring me, bro. All right. Saul is off the roof in Louisville. He could have something on the screen now that's totally offensive, but I'll not even read it because I want to shout out that gentleman. Thank you, Saul. All right, I should pay you for being in this chat, Saul. Thank you, because every time this guy rolls up in life with his lady by his side, concerts, comedy shows, vacations, he's repping the MK because it's a lifestyle to Saul. And I don't know him that well, but I bet he'd kick your ass too. Or at least he'd go out, spectacularly and end up on Have You Seen the Shit, which would be great. That would be a full circle moment, right? Also, where's Christian DeGuerro at? I got to get that guy on the show, okay? That guy represents by putting the MK right on the tip when he fights. I hope that guy goes to the top. I hope he makes more than 12 and 12. Have you seen The Dark Side of the Cage with Diego Sanchez? Yes, I have. While they talk about the Nick Diaz fight, they get an interview from Nick Diaz, and he looks rough, hoping Nick the best. So I just happened to see a snippet on social media when I was flipping on, when I was dead. What do they call that? Death scrolling on the IG. And it was from Jake Shields' podcast. And he was saying that Nick was doing really bad, but the good news is like things are turning around and he's starting to look better. So the Dark Side of the Ring series, which is so good on Vice for pro wrestling, and they've had some other spin-off attempts of like reality TV in the 90s and stuff like that. I've mostly effed with their wrestling stuff, which is great. It is really great. The MMA ones have been pretty good so far. I got a couple screeners in advance. I saw the Kimbo one. I mean, it was good, but it's like it didn't teach us anything. But it depends on how much you know. I lived the Kimbo experience, so I was looking for a little more. But the Diego Sanchez one is good because it's Joshua Fabia centered. And we know a lot about that already, but the stuff that we didn't know in particular about kind of like the way he tortured and mentally ruined Diego, I didn't know all that. So that was a revelation in that regard. And it was good. I quibbled at times with they had some like really good talking heads and people you'd expect. And then maybe some of you were like, oh, they got that guy too. And I think I got GSP for one. I've seen the trailer for the others. I watched part of the Evan Tanner one. I think it's the newest one. But to what Saul's trying to say here is that Nick Diaz has like a quick cameo in the Diego Sanchez one. And it's rough. It's like, he looks like a guy that got out of rehab for heroin or something. Like, I'm serious. Like, he looks rough. And there is an upcoming episode on him that is probably going to be awesome. So I can't wait to see that. That's part of this season that they're going to roll out. I'm so happy that he didn't end up fighting recently. So happy. I can't believe, because remember when people were asking Dana, like at the press conference, and I get Dana's got a million things going on, and there's power slap and boxing and these million things going on. But Dana was like, on some key topics, right? Too often Dana will play dumb, or you're like, how does he not up on that? And this time he was, they were like, did you see that video of Nick on the sidewalk? And he was like, no, what are you guys talking about? They had to tell him that Nick is not fit to fight. I don't even think he ever should have fought Lawler. And I hate that fight. And that was one of those that, like, I have the same inner struggle with, and this is a way better fight, by the way, Cotto Margarito 1, where because of what we ended up finding out with the loaded hand wraps for Margarito in the immediate fight after that against Shane Mosley, and you can start to look back on the run he had coming in there, and you're like, damn, he may have had that in all of these fights. Kermit Cintron believes, I think the rematch when he just knocked him out in one round, I think he's talked about that. And I always wonder in that Paul Williams match, if that great fight, Margarito Paul Williams, July 25th, 2007, welterweight title, Carson, California. I always wondered if that took a lot out of Williams, more than we thought in terms of slowing down his upward trajectory. But the Margarito Cotto one, you toy with wanting to celebrate what a great action fight it is, because there's that side of your brain that's like, I think I'm watching a guy get, illegally assaulted here. There's people that still argue with me. They're like, nah, man, that second Lawler Diaz was awesome. And I mean, I remember Dana talking about it afterwards. Like, yeah, man, those guys really went after it. That was so sad to watch. That was sad. Do you guys just not love Nick Diaz? That was sad to watch. It was sad. I'm glad he didn't fight again. Thank you. That's my 2 cents. All right. I'm here to talk to AZ Ray. That's my guy. That's my guy. All right. Thank you for your support in the channel, Arturo. All right. There we go. How big of an upset would it be if Paul Hughes beats Usman Nurmagomedov? I think it'd be really big. Now, I will say this. It's not connected, but Umar not doing what we thought he was capable or should have done or what have you. I just talked for a half hour of how great Merab is, and we have to embrace that, and that's true. I'm still shocked Umar fell apart. I didn't fully fell apart, but he fell apart to the expectations of Khabib. I mean, I hated watching Khabib. I don't like that video. It's out there of Khabib, like when they're reading who won the decision, and he just, was trying to will the situation, cosmically to make it that Umar won. He went to grab the belt from Dana, and then it was like, nah, Merab won, bro. But there was like a disappointment factor in there. So I'm wondering if this would be as big of a deal if Umar didn't just lose. It's still a huge upset. But then again, so was Paul Hughes versus AJ McKee, and I'm still blown away. And I'm not blown away because Hughes went in there and just bodied him and took him out in 2 rounds, because that's not what happened. He had to fight a competitive fight and make adjustments, and his wrestling game, his top position, ground and pound. The kid showed maturity and toughness. And, and I interviewed him. You should check that out on this channel. Check that shit out. All right. He's really confident, really. And it's not a boisterous Irish, I've got some level of, McGregor syndrome in me. No, like, this is his own deal. He's his own man. And it would be a pretty damn big upset here, because I think Usman is the real deal. I think he could walk right into the UFC's lightweight division and contend for a title right now. Now, I don't know if he could have the same, if he could get to a certain point like Umar did and then still lose. I don't know if he's perfect. And I'll throw perfect, even though no one's perfect. Some have come really close, like John Jones, but no one's perfect. But Khabib and Islam are almost perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, Khabib never lost, and he won almost every round he was in, except for what, like the one against Gaethje. And, he probably should have lost more against Tebow, but whatever. And I know Islam has a loss, but they're almost just perfect out there. And Usman's not that, but Usman's a little flashier too. I think he's got more variety to his offensive striking game. But I also think, like Umar, and they're brothers, by the way, that there's a part of them that you're waiting in the key moments for them to do more. And I'll even say this about Umar in the Sandhagen fight. And even though he won, and I thought he won, and I was impressed with his performance, there's those moments where you're like, man, he could have just done a little bit more. Is he too safe? Is it a stamina thing? What is it? What is it? There's just a tiny gap in there between greatness and perfect, near perfect. So yeah, this would be big. We're going to find out a lot about Paul Hughes, obviously, but I think we're really going to find out a lot about Usman. And, he said his last fight against Alexander Chablis was the tough of his career. And, that will stay the tough of his career. He doesn't think Hughes is anything. He might find out, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Hughes ain't Merab in some areas. So he's going to have to, to some degree outskill him too. He's got to be aggressive. He's got to pick his spots. And, it would help a lot if he could take Usman down and shift that power balance, and take down the Dagestani wrestler. We'll see. We'll see. He also might run into some high kicks. You know what I'm saying? AZ, are you with me? Please tell me. Okay, let's go to Alan W. This guy always, right, supporting the channel in a big way. Damn weather. Have you been outside of the house, outside of work? MFing weather. 9 inches of snow in Pensacola. Yeah, they are getting, I don't know where you reside, Alan Dubs, but they are getting nailed in Florida, in weird places like North Florida, like Pensacola. My parents live in Daytona. I don't know if they got hit. I got to talk to them in that regard. But I saw Raul Marquez in Houston was having ridiculous snow. I saw the pictures of his family in it. Yeah, it is cool. If you're in a non-snowing state, or a once every 5 years, but it's a dusting type of state, and then you get the real deal. The only problem is, man, the road people basically like south of Pennsylvania, don't know how to manage the roads, meaning like an inch and a half of snow can like shut down traffic on the highway and cause mayhem, And I'm not saying Connecticut's the toughest. We do get banged, okay? We get banged, but it's not comparable to other places. But we're tough as shit over here, okay? All right, especially us from the other side of the tracks by the factories and dark, dimly lit bars. All right, dimly lit for a reason, Hal. Yeah, but the weather's crazy here. I mean, the fire stuff is out of control in California. All right. I mean, let me pour some water on those balls over there. Not trying to make light, but ultimately trying to make light because that's what I do. All right. Hey, let's hear from BVOW11 again. Am I crazy for saying I respect Tank for not bowing down to Turki? No, you're not crazy at all for saying that. Obviously Tank's got to make the decision for himself. I don't, there's been like some rumor out there that he's got some silent deal from Amazon, a 7-fight deal or something for multiple hundreds of millions. I haven't heard anything of that anywhere else. But when Tank pushes back on Turki or people on Twitter, to some degree, he's right from the standpoint of like, I already am a star. I can carry my own star when I fight. Look at the attention and the dollars and the gate. To some, the only problem is he's going to need those other guys for the really big fights. So will he eventually join, or I don't know, like what is PBC's, long-term future? We got to see. There's going to be a lot of changes in the boxing landscape and business over the next 6 months. Some people switching networks, some people maybe consolidating, or it's like, is Turki taking over, or is he just spreading the seeds all over so he's everywhere at the same time? Well, it remains to be seen. There were some, Twitter rumors regarding PBC in like the last 24 hours. I don't think it ever came to light of what the ending is, but if you love boxing, you got to be cheering for the PBC, and you can never count out Al Heyman. So we're going to see, and maybe they made a great choice for February 1st. Maybe they did, Am I crazy for saying that, Bevo? It's for you to decide. All right. And if you don't like it, turn off your station. Okay. Let's go back to South Oregon, Bird 2 Changs over here. Think one of the Paul brothers is in boxing's biggest fight in 2025. I don't know if you're asking me or you're saying it, but it might become true. Okay. Let's talk this out. The Paul brothers swing big. They fancy just as much to be event presenters and being part of it, and being the starring role in it than they do what they are always telling you they're trying to, or Jake is always telling you, legitimate boxer. And I'm not holding that against Jake. I think he's played his hand incredibly well. But you saw the double press release from Netflix, one saying the Paul Tyson fight was so successful, it led them to a ridiculous amount. What was it? 9 million more subscribers, 90 million more? I forgot what the number was. Okay. I'm out of pocket here. All right. But it was a boom. It was not a doom. It was 5 big booms. All right. But then they're raising their price. I mean, everybody's raising their price. It is price gouge land right out there in this business, in this industry, in combat sports, indeed. Okay. But it shows you that they can see firsthand the value of what this sport can do on a one-night basis. And maybe that's all they're into, or maybe this is going to lead them to getting into a contract with UFC for part of the deal. We don't know. There got to be big players in this. Maybe part of that, they bring a boxing element in, or maybe it's just big ones. But it's much more likely that the big ones would hover around what the Paul brothers are all about. And we obviously know what an Indian billionaire family wants to do in putting McGregor with one of the Paul brothers. Now, the updates on that, of course, are Dana actually being asked about that at one of the recent UFC press conferences and right away shooting it down, which is probably the right stance to have for sure, of like, yeah, we ain't doing that. I mean, maybe TKO will want to do that. We'll see. We'll see if this thing actually has legs, right? But like, everything's changing so fast because of Daddy Warbucks over here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just Turkey. There's a few entities in Saudi Arabia, not all connected directly to the government, that are in things. We know in the UAE, there's a lot of, heavy investment in this area too. So the leaves are changing, meaning I wouldn't doubt if it got pushed and came close to a reality, could Dana and TK ultimately buckle and allow it just because it's so ridiculous. But the other development was seeing how weird it was for Inauguration Day. First, to see an actual presidential inauguration filled with just a cast of like, I mean, whose bingo card ever in our life was going to have like Gordon Ryan, Hulk Hogan, like across the Bryce Mitchell, wild events in a fair. But to see them, breaking kayfabe and McGregor sitting with the Paul's mother while the two boys were ahead of him, it was like, everybody got invited to the same wedding and just had to lay down their arms and play ball. It was weird, but it doesn't lead me to believe, it is necessarily happening. I'm just saying, when people have the kind of money and have shown a track record of spending it, like that family, the Indian family, just had a $600 million wedding for their son that some have estimated could be close to $1 billion. Like, they're willing to put that crap down for this type of thing, for the clout, for the damn gram, right? It might just happen, but obviously Jake's going to be, here's the thing. Like, do I expect Jake to go from this weird side exit of fighting Tyson directly back into fighting young cruiserweights on the rise? No. Obviously, I think he would take another of the type of fights he's been taking if it was big enough. If he can get KSI in there, then he would go back in sort of a YouTube lane, or if he could get, I would hope for his sake he would want to eventually rematch Tommy Fury. And, what if he gets a close win? It would say a lot, I think, to some degree, to his critics or haters. But I wonder how much drinking the juice of the spectacle that was the Tyson fight, even though ultimately he had to kind of hold things together by, like, sometimes literally propping Mike up and then ultimately making the decision not to finish him. Did that deter him from doing that kind of stuff? Or was the money and the show, right? Mike slapping him, was that so much where he's just like, man, I'm just going to do the biggest things I can do. Then you're going to see him in there against a Conor or somebody like that. And, maybe we get to a point, the same conversation we had, by the way, leading into Mayweather McGregor, and the old guard combat sports journalists like myself at that point, this was late 2016. I was at ESPN. You'd ask me if that happened. This fight's never going to happen. I think we thought we were right for the right reasons. We didn't necessarily understand that TKO, not TKO then, right, being bought, and Endeavor just recently having bought UFC, that eventually they would go, you know what, let's just get involved and take the unprecedented payday here and keep our star happy and not make it anything more than it needs to be. Let's be a part of it. Let's help it. I think they just as easily could have gone the other way. And if they decide to put their foot down on any potential thing like this, is there so much money involved that, Conor just says, F it, I'm going through with it, and you can take me to, court forever after that? Or can the UFC actually block that? Would it matter if it's on foreign ground? I don't know. I don't know all this, but you're probably sick of me talking about it. So, let's see what Lazy Bed has to say. Thank you, Lazy Bed. Friday Knucklemania. Is that Friday night? If they're doing it on Friday, I respect that. I love some good shit on a Friday night in combat sports. Thursdays too. Can somebody get a weeknights? I know Pro Box does largely middle of the week, right? Somebody's got to get a good midweek boxing series. Get me fired the heck up. All right. We bucked up and dicked down. Yeah, I guess we are. Lazy. All right. No, I got dinner plans with my wife on Friday night where I'm going to enjoy that. All right. But I'll probably get home in time to catch the craziness. Probably should have live streamed it. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I could have cashed in and live streamed it. It's Saturday, Jed. Tell these MFers where we are. Jed Meshew number 2 coming in here. All right. Spraying that air freshener after somebody trying to get dick down in here. All right. Thank you. I'm like, is anybody in here with me, or am I talking to myself? Apparently Jed's listening. Let's go to Dana Blanco. Blanco. Thank you for your support of this chat and this endeavor of mine. I'm not talking about TKO Group. Keep that seat in row 8 warm and listen to Monin by Charles Mingus. Will you be making an appearance at BKFC Knucklemania? It's in Philly. Close enough in theory, but no, I'm not. Like, maybe if it was 5 years ago, could I see at CBS them being like, that's a short hop. Why don't you just go cover that? Probably, but things are changing in this business. So no, I'm not going to be there unless they want me on the broadcast. I'll be part of that. It's not beneath me to be a part of that broadcast. I mean, would I rather work Benavidez Morel? You damn right I would. Okay. But I was raised out of the 7-Eleven. You're going to have to understand that and deal with that, Blanco. Okay. All right. So I only have one Mingus album, his best one. What the hell is it called? Come on, BC. I don't, he's incredible. He's incredible. I even like the Joni Mitchell Mingus album, which is great in its own self, but it's like the most abrasively jazz. It's Joni's jazz, but it is abrasively Joni's jazz. I do love it. It's an acquired taste, though. I much prefer, if I'm going to get weird with Joni, to do the double album Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, the album before that, which I think is a sonic circus, a masterpiece. She takes insane chances sonically on that album, and goes jazz, goes weird, goes world beat, goes some weird places. Now that you got to come to terms with the cover, though, it's Joni in like blackface, like dressed up as she had this gimmick at parties where she would. I'm not down with that. All right, I'm not down with that. There you go. I mean, it's not as controversial as Blind Faith's lone self-titled album that had a topless 13-year-old model on it. Yeah, and that was a swing and a miss, by the way. But damn, do I love that album. Like, it's not perfect. It's near perfect. And I would come to realize later that super group failed ultimately because Clapton's heart just wasn't in it and he wanted out kind of from the beginning. I didn't realize how much Steve Winwood carried that 4-pack, just, in terms of he wrote the bulk of the material, but as an arranger, as a Steve, we don't talk about him enough. I mean, am I the only one in this chat that listens to Traffic? Traffic has kind of changed me I love me some Traffic. I don't think you wanted to know that, but Mingus, one of the best of all time, no doubt about it. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Okay. Get dick down with old Charlie Mingus if you can. There you go. All right. Let's hear from Alan W. Thank you again, Alan. Considering how they looked coming to 175, I don't think Morrell or Benavidez, Alan says, can beat Bivol or better Biev. Maybe better Biev due to age. So it's hard to say. I do agree that both in their 175 debuts failed to sizzle. I think Benavidez was better. Morrell, I think, struggled at times against Hot Rod Radjovic. But sometimes I do wonder, like, are you just fighting a guy who's trying to have the fight of his night and fight of his career on one night, and maybe you're a little bit cold or off, because it's hard. They fight twice a year. So you have an off night, just like if you're, playing hoops in the NBA. That happens on fight night. That sucks. Sometimes that's a result of the life you've been living or how hard you've been training or whether you belong in this division. And sometimes it's not. And then you got a bigger, more important fight next, like Morrell has, and you see the real version of him plugged in because he has to be, right? So I'm certainly going to want to lean on that. And also, it's kind of two blown up super middleweights fighting each other. So the 175 element doesn't matter anyway. And in this case, now moving forward, to your point, that's the key question. But I do think Benavidez, hearing more about the levels of injury that he was dealing with, yet he still pushed through with the fight. And he was going in there against a former champion in Vodzik, who is older, but really technically a difficult fighter. And also offensively, like, tried to take some chances in there. And, Benavidez had to be a little bit savvy to keep him away. And it wasn't overly exciting. But I think just like we, in hindsight, gave Canelo more respect fighting through that left wrist injury that gave us so-so performances in the trilogy with Golovkin, the decision win over John Ryder and his Mexican homecoming. There were a couple fights there where we're like, man, is he going down the wrong direction? Then he got healthy and then he kicked some ass. But also, Jermell Charlo didn't bring it. So I don't even know really what to do with that fight. Canelo looked great, but Jermell, surprisingly, didn't put his best foot forward. So the question is, can they beat them? What I'm really trying to say here, Alan, is I think both to some degree have a level of a pass where let me see them come back in a fight like this where there's so much at stake and there's so much adrenaline. I think you're going to get a much better example of exactly who they are at 75, and I think they will be fine. And I think coming out of this fight, we will believe that both of them could compete on that level. Now, the key question is, could they beat them? Obviously, short of Beterbiev aging out quickly, it's going to be hard. I mean, it's the same thing Canelo found out, just from the standpoint that like Bivol was, when Bivol's fighting that aggressive and he's taking the fight to you like he did against Canelo. I mean, it's like he's long, he's faster than he should be, amazing technique, and he's putting it together and he can punch. So that becomes a reality. So can Benavidez still be the bully against a guy like that? It's why we'd want to find out. Of course, I've got questions. Yes, you would have to favor Bivol or Beterbiev from what we know right now against either one of these guys. But I think Morel and Benavidez are going to force the other one, whichever one of them is going to win it, to pour out the best of them. And I think sometimes you don't really, you don't end up seeing sometimes the true best of a guy. Sometimes it's matchup dependent. Sometimes guys pour out the jug too early, like a Fernando Vargas, because he's gotten himself into insanely big fights at such a young age with the belief that he could win it for sure. But when you fight to be great, when you dare to be great inside there, it's one thing to dare to be great in your business decisions, which we're definitely going to respect guys when they do that, take hard fights, move up and weight. What Crawford's doing is ridiculous. Yes, the legends did it before him, but in this era, we don't ask you of that. There's so many freaking divisions, yeah. Damn. I don't know how I got connected the dots to Crawford. We got to move on here or I'll get lost. Okay. But thank you, Alan, very much. Thank you. All right. Alan back. Sylvester Stallone is like short like Rogue. Yeah, dude, all these guys ultimately are, right? Like Tom Cruise, Michael J. Fox. Why are those the first ones that come to mind? But like inevitably all of these great stars. I mean, I'm sure Kevin Bacon's probably like 5'4". The guy did show his dong unnecessarily in that movie with Wild Things. Yeah, unnecessarily on that bacon. I didn't need to see the meat. Okay, I was fine with the bacon. All right, all 6 degrees of Footloose is still awesome. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to stand in the corner and be like, hey, I love Footloose. I'm not that guy. It's a pretty good movie, though, and soundtrack. Shout out to Loggins was sneaky because Kenny Loggins looks like, he's like a cooler Dan Fogelberg, which is not saying much, right? But he's sneaky great. You'll find out. You'll F around with Kenny Loggins, you'll find out. But at the surface, the guy looks like he'll lower your T count just hanging in the same room as him. Again, I'm not sure how we got there from Rogan, but shout out to Joe, especially when he's dressed like a bar back. I love that. All right, what else we got here, Chin? Let's go to Guillermo A. Thank you, Guillermo. My favorite Guillermo is El Chacal, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Thank you, the legend. I have a poster of one of my favorite fights ever, Radio City Music Hall, April 13th, 2013, when Nonito Donaire and Rigondeaux fought. It was a great night. Great night. BC, how big are you on nicknames? Packy Weather isn't one of the worst ones, but it's up there. I dislike lazy ones like Alexander the Great or anyone named Sean with the nickname Sugar. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I like ridiculous ones. I like remember that boxer Juan Lascano? He had the Hispanic causing panic, which was just wonderful. You get one like Touchy Feely that you're like, that feels like an all-timer, but it's also, is that perfect? Does that sum up exactly? No, it's got to have some level like that. It can be very generic. Then you get like the like when you're trying to get your last name involved, but your nickname only works with your last name, then I think you got a problem too. It's like, oh, Miranda, what's your nickname? Fear the. It's like, nah, that didn't work. That didn't really work out great. Yeah, that's all I got for you, Guillermo. Thank you very much. Okay. I mean, not everybody can be a Sugar. It almost like, when a guy like Shane Mosley is taking on the nickname Sugar, he's thinking like, I got to try to live up to Sugar Ray Robinson and Sugar Ray Leonard, right? It's like, but like he had the confidence to believe. The worst part is when you get a guy who is not going to be an all-timer, but you're like, you're kind of pulling on an all-time nickname there, stop doing that, right? All right, there we go. I like to hear from Google account. Okay, thank you for those. Thank you. How is Neon Dion the Barber doing? So I have not. So that's Maniche's. Corey Maniche. Great guy, by the way, Manich. Have met him a lot of times. I did yell at him that one time. Manich and I we went head to head that one time. Then I apologized profusely. It's rare. It'll be rare that live business BC will like get loose in the turn and yell at somebody. But Manich, apologies on that one. That's Manich's barber, Reg, and he of course cut our hair during that live. Remember when Canelo fought Bivol the same night as some big UFC? I don't think that was Huawei, right? No, it was not same night. I don't know anymore. The last 7 years was just a blur at this point. I don't go to that guy, but Neon, he definitely had a high craft, you could tell. And he was a good dude too. So if anyone's out there in Jersey City, go hit Neon Dion up. Tell him BC sent you. Thank you very much. Hey, Alan W here. Showtime's Catching Lightning, the Lee Murray doc was awesome. Dude, it was awesome. Oh, dude, thank you, Showtime, for producing. If you haven't watched that, go back and check it out. That was an awesome. It was like gripping too, it was great. The UFC lore with Lee Murray, Tito Ortiz street fight was awesome. That's if you only want to come to the film just to see that story told by those that were there, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it, and it perfectly spells out what a badass Lee Murray was. Just not a perfect fighter. Like who knows what he would have ended up being. Although he certainly had flashes of brilliance there. But Reg, what are you trying to do, dude? You want to come back? They're willing. They don't mind, Reg. Come on. No? All right. So check that out. And then of course Tito, Tito's a joke now in a lot of ways. But it's fun it's fun talking about prime badass Tito. Let's never forget the Huntington Beach bad boy. I mean, remember that run when he was just a badass. But then Dana said that, he's just okay. We know, we've said it before. Thank you. All right. Morning Wombat. Great name. Thoughts on Benn versus Eubank. Eubank is like fringe world level, but Benn didn't seem to have much pop at 54. Yeah, that's thoughts. That's the key. So it's a weird fight. First of all, it's guys that are, not in the same weight class, weren't necessarily trending in the same direction, but they've got the history of their fathers having fought twice and their fathers being part of a, great era at 168 pounds and great stuff. And when the kids are pretty damn good, but they're also wild cards and can sell fights and there's some fire. And these two were going to fight a couple years ago. And then Conor Benn had the whole drug test situation. And so it's like, I don't need this fight. And certainly it's probably more UK centric, but I'll enjoy it. And it's got a chance here to be wild. But the central question, of course, is Eubank, who at times will show you explosive power. At times, remember when he tried the Roy Jones training him thing and really tried to be this athletic freak? Like there's times when he harnesses his athleticism with some discipline and he was a flashy, dangerous guy, but he also just falls apart technically. And there's a lot of flaws there, but he's fighting a smaller guy, a better skilled guy, but a smaller guy. And if he didn't have crazy pop on the climb up, then this might be a great fight. It might be it might be a fight that goes distances and has a lot of pockets of action. I think Benn can win this. I think you probably asked me about this 2 years ago or in some situation. I think I was asked about this and I was like, you got to take the bigger fighter in this case. And Eubank's still young enough in the pop. But I think Benn's got balls and I wonder if he can win, if he can outbox and win this. He's gonna have to eat a few though, for sure. I'm back in the mode that I live in, which is let me go on the smaller skilled fighter. I don't know where I'm going to lean Crawford Canelo though. I really don't know. Okay. All right. Michael second to none is my favorite nickname. So even though that broke my rule there of fear the Maverick, where you need your last name a part of it. Yeah, that's a badass last name. And Michael Nunn was awesome too. I love that era of 60, 68 guys. There's a great roundtable sit down that British boxing TV. What channel is that? I'm sorry, I'm not up on it, but they did that great sit down roundtable. There was like Calzaghe and Roy and Stevie Collins. And who's the other guy? Johnny Nelson hosting. Worth your time to check that out there on the internet. Thank you very much. Go to the YouTube. Find it on the YouTubes. Thank you. Oh, Manich is back. That's my guy. He's live and direct. Mish, you don't have to be throwing shekels at me, but I love you, brother. Neon Dion is good. We still talk MK. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So Manich, we made up like brothers, right? Yeah. Manich is he's from Bethlehem, and he'll get great hang, Manich, great hang. Thank you very much. No need to glaze this gentleman any further, but I would like him to take his music career to the next level. All right, that's just a shout out from your boy over here. All right, Alan's talking about cats. Oh, brother, thank you so much for the support. Reggie will appreciate that. I hope Reggie's congestion will pass, and he can get back to being the man he is. But he's trying. I know he could tell. He could tell that most people in this house wanted him gone because he's been kind of turning that corner. He's been doing some Reggie things lately that you go, okay, he's trying right there. But in reality, it's going to go away soon, and he's going to, do whatever he wants. And I'm here for that. I'm definitely here for that. Thank you. Telvin Kipapa, who is the most exciting MMA fighter and boxer ever? It's a wonderful question. Wonderful question. It's kind of like ultimately, like, what's your flavor? In MMA, I'm still going to stand by, to me, and it used to be Robbie Lawler for me, but in terms of like if I'm going to UFC Fight Pass or I'm going on YouTube and I'm just want to search and watch fun fights, like who's the guy I'm going to pick first? Like who's the first name that's going to pop in? And it's like, yeah, Robbie Lawler's that guy. But Justin Gaethje is the ultimate highlight. And I don't necessarily disagree with what Luke said on MKN Monday regarding the Hooker fight, that it's like at some point Gaethje, even refined elite Gaethje, where he, not too far removed from, he's still going to run into traffic and make mayhem. And that's why we love him. I don't know how much more, what are going to be the long-term issues with that. Hopefully he's going to be okay, but it's Gaethje for me on the MMA side. And, you can pick whoever you want, but for a brawler, just no nonsense is what I'm all about, but yet, slyly, subtly skilled in some very key areas. Odd that he sort of abandoned, the wrestling that he was sort of known for coming into the sport and rising, that, it's barely a part of his UFC game. But I just never thought he would become, he was an interim champion. Shout out to him. And maybe, just maybe he was one calf strike away from putting Khabib in peril. And I know you know that already. And I know that ultimately at some point you're going to come around, you're going to be sitting by the fire with a beer, and you're going to go, man, BC was right. He knew it. He smelt that. He may have been wrong on Zabit, but he nailed that one. All right. Boxer, it's like, it's like, who's your guy? Are you a Gotti guy? Are you a Mickey Ward guy? Are you could be a Pacquiao guy. It could be, I might be an Eric Morales guy. That's my campeon in terms of this category. And he was certainly skilled and a decorated champion, but he's a boxer puncher, and he's a real man in there. And I even love the old welterweight run with him that of course ended sadly, but it gave us a few highlights, like fighting you had no business fighting Maidana with one swollen eye shut, that old division over his head. We thought that man was going to get murdered in there. We thought it was malpractice that fight was even on. And yet I remember watching that going, the size of this gentleman's huevos. That's why I'll campeon you in a dimly lit Las Vegas casino after midnight, intoxicated, to just let you know I appreciate it. All right. I once accosted Casamayor. I had to let him know Casamayor is the coolest Cuban boxer ever. You heard, I'm on record saying that. Okay. What do you got, Alan W? Reggie, F your couch, Jackson. Yeah, F your life. Reggie, he can't help himself. It's all about Reggie. But like I always say, at the end of the day, I kind of respect him for being that ridiculous, Yeah, man, right? But Reggie's a thug, but sometimes he's just my boy. There we go. There's your moment. Yeah. Tell your friends. Thank you very much. Okay, let's sweep up here. What else we got here? Two Chang's right back at it. Thank you, brother. Okay, buddy. Would Teen Wolf make your all-movie basketball team? Him and Jesus Shuttleworth would be an insane backcourt. Yeah, so you're talking about Scotty from Teen Wolf, Michael J. Fox. Great movie. Still holds up to this day. And yes, Luke looks a lot like the dad, especially when, Luke put on a lot of weight, as did both of us in that early MK prime. Man, we just got fat as heck. We were like, yeah, let's eat our profits. This is great. Remember when Luke would be like, let's get $75 at Taco Bell for absolutely no reason right now. And then, in pure Luke fashion, wait till it's cold and then eat it. I don't get that. What's wrong with you? Anyway, this is a difficult conversation to have because we love to do this. We love to like make an all movie team. And you're like, what about Leon from Above the Rim? Even though the hoops were 8 feet tall and he was playing out there in corduroys, he put it on. He put it on those guys. I'm like, that guy could play the 3 on this team. But like Shuttlesworth could dominate and would probably be an MVP candidate in this league we're making. But dude, Teen Wolf could make it like it's NBA Jam. You know what I'm saying? He could just like spin and this guy, he got a lot of chicks. You got to give Teen Wolf a lot of credit. That guy was sly. And then Styles made those t-shirts. What a time to be alive. If you didn't grow up in the 80s with HBO and way too much time on your hands, I really regret what you missed out on because you weren't on the internet. The video games weren't good enough to make it where you're like, this is who I am and this is what I do. They were just another thing. You know what I'm saying? But HBO movies like this, they raised me, All right. There you go. Thank you. Alan W. back at it. I got another hot take. Canelo would KO Benavidez. He's heating up here, Alan W. Let this guy cook. I still like to believe that Canelo's competitive in that match for sure, but that B, there are multiple scenarios. It's always like every fight that you mythically do, you're like 10 times. If I see it 10 times, and that doesn't always win. The guy that wins ultimately may have been 1 out of 10 that he does that. We know this already. I think there's still a good amount in that 10. You can talk yourself into Canelo outlasting him and outslicking him and everything, but you're talking about breaking him. We haven't seen that. I mean, eventually it's going to fall apart for Benavidez because even though he is responsible defensively to a certain degree for a guy that come forward, right? For the way because of how ambitious he is and because he's an old school fighter and because in general he fights so mean, he's going to take a lot of punishment. And I don't know I don't know if he can be the super elite guy that he is right now for the next 7 fights or maybe the next 2. That's really what I'm trying to say. I'd go more than 2 though, and I can't see Canelo breaking him. You know what I mean? Whether that's hurting him with a big counter shot and then, picking him apart and wearing him down, taking him out, or maybe, I can't see him one-punching him either. I mean, it really is incredible who Benavidez has evolved himself to be. And yes, we don't fully know if he can be the bully at 75 that he was at 68, but his ability behind that high guard to come forward and make you have to dig in and Reggie, you're not doing that right now, dude. Not climbing. So he's climbing the record player and he's going to try to leap. And I wish I had extra cam. I need a Reggie cam in here. He's going to, hang and all right, there we go. There we go. That's a hot take. I'm not there with you, but I'm trying to talk myself into the belief that Canelo is going to do that. Hey, one more time. I got to let Reggie out because this guy's a maniac. Okay. I mean, serious. All right. We're back at it. Thank you. Let's keep it going here, 2 Changs. Think Blair Cobbs can get the Boots fight? No, the Boots Ennis fight. No, Boots Ennis. It looks like he's fighting Staniosis. And by the way, I know Staniosis has been insanely inactive. I think would he have an injury? Something couldn't get the big fights. I actually called his best win against Shaga. What's the guy's name? The dude that beat the guy I'm talking about. All right. I was at that fight, by the way. What the hell? Rajav Butayev? Is that the guy I'm talking about? That guy for a little bit, right? He was a menace. Stanionis won that, and that was on the the featured prelim of Ugas versus Spence pay-per-view. Yeah, there you go. Blair Cobbs I'll give Blair Cobbs credit for being fun and wackadoo and doing the pro wrestling bit, but being like close enough to decent enough to like almost getting good fights. And he did get the Broner fight, even though this is a incredibly shop worn version of Broner, and he did win it. So, okay. Eventually he'll cash himself out to somebody. It would have been the right time for Blair to go after Boots because the stock of Boots is it's hanging a bit at the moment. So it would have been the right opportunity to be like, can I be the guy that breaks him? But no, Boots, if Boots unifies against Stanionis in maybe the best welterweight fight you can make, and then fights Teo next, oh God, that's going to be fun. I mean, these guys that that's one of the worst parts. If we really examine the bad parts of being a boxing fan or the stuff that you just have to deal with, it's like, man, I love my family and we're great. But that uncle and this storyline over here, like, I don't want anybody to know about that, right? Like, oh man. Is like we've had to wait. We know how good Boots is, but we have waiting unnecessarily 2 and 3 years for him to get matched, in what he deserves. So we really find out. And sometimes guys in that interim don't evolve, or they stay stagnant, or sometimes they go backwards and they get exposed. You know what I mean? It all depends on everything, on what you're made of and everything, timing. But if these guys are going to fight a lot in the next 2 years, for as long as this big turkey money lasts, and the guys that are going to buy into what he's trying to do are going to make a lot of money in a short term and be in really hard fights. And yeah, I think the momentum is going to really kick the sport in the ass in some good ways. I'm telling you, as of right now, that's what it's looking like. There will be a price to pay. There will be receipts. It always is in boxing. Nothing comes easy, and you're always going to feel gross afterwards. But try to feel gross when you're watching these action heroes back to back to back put out these incredibly great fights. Damn, Alan. Okay, Alan W. Always working for a living. Always Alan W. For my lifetime, Alan says, nothing was more exciting than Pac-Man crashing the scene against Ledwaba. Yes, through his upward run to 147, even though he was likely on EPO. So this is Alan's editorial. But I mean, a lot of our heroes were, for sure. No, I mean, you talk about Merab's stamina. I should be serious. No one has had the extended stamina that Pacquiao has had in his prime, of just being able to, like, it's what Malignaggi always used to say publicly, because Malignaggi has been of the belief that Pacquiao always used. He's like, you just can't do what he did, which is dip in for a 5-6 punch combination, step back, and step right back in for another like 6, 7, 8 punch combination, and not need a recovery, not need to skip a beat after that. That's who he was. And the fun part about watching him rise, to your point here, you didn't make the point, but I know you're thinking it, Alan, is that we got to really watch him evolve. I mean, he was kind of basic, even when he walked through Barrera in San Antonio in 2003, which was to a lot of us like oh my God, this guy's for real. He's not just going to overwhelm this tier guy. He's going to go in against this tier and make it look easy. Still just, paw, hard left straight. To watch who he became, and maybe the second Marquez fight was the first fight where I was like, damn, he's a technician now. He's a dangerous force of nature, but he's also, the Manila Ice. He found the right hook. Okay. Thank you, LNW. Yeah. Nothing better in your life, Alan. That and the run that Cinemax had in the early 90s. Again, it raised us, Alan. Okay. Now, but don't get on my bad side here, because Seagal legit had one good movie, BC. So, Alan, this is a falsity. Okay. Okay, what are you talking about? Are you talking about like an actual good movie? Are we talking about like cinematic standards? I don't even know which one you would point to. I mean, my dad hates Seagal and always said, I'll only have respect for Above the Law. And I get it. Of the first four, it's the closest to a real movie, I guess, rather than an over the top, aggressive, awesome, comedic, but awesome, badass action movie. I mean, you had the big blockbuster turn with the first Under Siege, which, I got a lot of love for that movie for sure. But I will, Alan, you are wrong. His prime four, the first four, They all, I mean, dude, how could you? And then they built too, like Above the Law, heavy on dialogue, like but it might be his best acting performance. Then it goes into Hard to Kill, which starts to get a little cheesy, ridiculous, and awesome. But where it goes from Out for Justice into Marked for Death is a hell of a ride. It is. Alan, get right. Get right with this, man. Okay, please. All right, please get right with Seagal. All right. Well, we can we do live watch-alongs on the BCX of Marked for Death, please? Can we please do that? Thank you. All right, Sandeem, what do you got? Cool art in the background. Appreciate the content. Thank you. Yeah, that's a fantastic Mayweather McGregor poster art that famous art dude Tristan Eaton had made. It's pretty badass print there. So shout out, you get some of those goodies from Showtime back in the day. I've got a framed. I really enjoyed that Bipolar Rock and Roller documentary. That you really back in already, dude. That Mauro Ranallo did, and I have an autographed one of him framed, and it's awesome to me. It means a lot. I love those little bonuses we used to get back in the day. What do you got, Alan? The fact that Broner is a 4-division champ makes me want to throw up. Yeah, that's one of the. I think that he's probably the poster boy for the, like, what's the worst case scenario of this era's proliferation of belts and what it says about certain fighters, because it's like, it's not nothing. And he was a 4-division title holder, but it's like, how many of those were vacant title bouts against the guy who, wasn't ready for prime time? There's a few of those, or close fights where he got the decision, but maybe you weren't fully confident you believed it. I thought he beat Malignaggi. I was at that fight. That was the famous fight where Malignaggi called out. Well, first it was the "Don't be taking my side" piece post-fight interview moment with Jim Gray, which was great. And then it was people forget it was the rant against Al Heyman for paying off the judges in theory. And then Paulie signs with Al Heyman like a week later. So that was kind of a wild turn of events there. Broner still won that fight though, but it fell apart quick after that, and it's never been recovered. And I gave him a lot of chances to do that because he is so charismatic, usually in the wrong ways, but like, I don't know. There was a time, man, I still miss the prime Mr. HBO Broner run, the Can Man run. Like, I kind of miss the Can Man from HBO. And I still kind of miss like the early peak on Showtime before he just got ridiculous. But, I also apparently love pro wrestling and, grew up in a 7-Eleven. So that you got to factor that in ultimately. Okay. Tu Chang says Broner could have been elite at the lower weight classes like 126 and 30. I think you're particularly right at 30 and 35. His power did not carry up above 35, but what made matters worse is he refused to become a boxer at 40 and 47, and that was going to be the way he was going to survive. He wanted to employ the same style and mystique, which was to be almost a James Toney, kind of modified shoulder roll. Let me stand in front of you, and I'm just going to counter. Really big shots, but you're going to outwork me. And that's kind of what Malignaggi did to him, particularly the body. Like, I get the argument Paulie made for having won that fight. He did outwork Broner, but I just felt like Broner's power shots were physically moving him. If Broner didn't put on weight too quickly for the wrong reasons and could have had the discipline to stay around 35 for a while, I mean, he was super elite at 30 and 35, in my opinion. Even with not having the right work ethic or attitude or what have you, just physically could outdo it. And unfortunately for him, like I said, he was never able to find consistency at the higher weight classes, despite winning titles, and really in his biggest fights came up empty, although deserves more respect for how he handled the Maidana fight. I say that understanding that he was literally looking for a way out during the fight and trying to hump and foul Maidana. I remember those moments. Those were dark moments. But the way that he kind of took that beating and found a way back into that fight late, I got a lot of respect for. But yeah, when he got to the point of his highest commercial level, and remember that stretch where he was actually calling out Floyd, which was kind of funny. That really was the money fight for him. And I'm kind of shocked given how ridiculous boxing is that they never did that as an in-house pay-per-view and play up the angle of, student turning on teacher like it's Orndorff Hogan in 86. I mean, it's straight out of pro wrestling. There's no doubt about it. But I really don't like when he got to the level where he got the Pacquiao fight. His stardom deserved that, but once he was overwhelmed and realized he wasn't going to win it, he packed it in, went to the scorecards, and then would argue ridiculously that he not only deserved the win, but that he did it for the ghetto. And I was like, that shout out right there. Thank you very much. Reggie, are you in or out, dude? Seriously. Reggie will challenge. I mean, he'll challenge, and if he doesn't get what he's looking for from you, he goes right to the things that he knows he'll get the most attention, like that, just teenage daughter who's, can't get it right. And, with daddy issues, that's Reggie right there. All right. Yeah. There we go. Fancy's like, yeah, Reggie, do the trick or get off my stage. Thank you very much. I do understand to some degree though where you're coming from on there. Let's go over to Telvin Key Papa, always in full support of this show. Jackie Chan or Jet Li? It's a good question. Am I, die hard in either one, meaning that I've got the full handle on their elite primes? No. Have certainly watched both of them, have a lot of respect for both of them. I mean, it's I want to say Chan because for being physically awesome and really, I think being a great action star, the personality. I mean, the guy could do comedy really well. Jet Li to me is more of a badass and a technician in this role. So it's I want to lean emotionally to Jackie, but I think the Jet Li was actually better in terms of the movies I've seen. And do I like his stuff more? Yeah, I'm going to shout out Jet Li in that regard. But, it's one of those things where I've got small samples. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Shout out to Mikey always. All right. Let me take this down. Let me take this home here. What else we got, Chin? Sandine saying Dom the Dragon Wilson beats them both on the same day. I mean, maybe in real life, and that was always the debate. People felt like Seagal's Aikido was shit. I'm very decorated Seagal, legit, but also ridiculous. Just a ridiculous person. Somehow, actually can play blues guitar pretty decent, which is weird, and just as weird as the turn when he became a reality TV show police officer. Yeah. All right. Alan W saying 80s, 90s Jackie Chan, hands down. I mean, he was the full package. He really was. He really was the full package. Let's go back to AZ videos. Jackie Chan is the answer. He fought Benny the Jet Benavidez. All right. I thought you were going to go Benny the Jet Rodriguez. That guy could steal third, right? Steal home, actually, right? Spoiler alert. Yeah. What do you got, Fancy Mortimer? BC, who are you picking in the top 3 fights for UFC for the next UFC Fight Night fight? Great fights at the top of the card. Yeah, I agree with you on the great fights at the top of the card. So let me pull up the old and the drummer get wiki, right? You're talking about UFC Fight Night, Adesanya Imavov, February 1st, Riyadh, brother. So look, I want to see. This is our find out moment. Where's Izzy at? Is it over? Is it almost over? Does he right the ship for this and put out a solid performance? You know what I mean? Is it going to be what? Or is this going to be like Liddell versus Jardine? You know what I'm saying? A lot. I'm very interested in seeing. I do think Adesanya impressed me more in the early parts of that DDP fight. And kind of reminded me who he was, and then fell apart and DDP took over, and and it was more DDP taking over and doing it. He's definitely older and flawed now, is he? They're diminishing returns, but the real obvious thing is, can these guys, and they're usually able to do it, put it together for, that does he have one more in him to remind us and get him into another huge fight? This is a matchup where I don't think he's going to get solved. So if he's still got the goods, he'll win it. I think the question that I'm asking is, how much does he have to pour out to do that? Is he almost at a point where he's got to be in the line of fire and can he survive in that? I don't think, as much as I think Nasruddin's a very good fighter and can win this fight, if Izzy's still got it, he'll win it. But it might be really close. It might be. Sharabola against MVP is interesting. MVP said coming up just for this fight to middleweight, then going to finish out at welter. As much as I doubt this red-haired pirate, then he's pulling out a double spinning back fist. I mean, it's just, and he's had a few of these moments where it's like, Man, he don't look that good. And then, oh, shit, look, came on in the third round. Oh, yeah, I got him out of there. He's MVP could just as well be this huge problem that exposes him as he could be where sometimes MVP has weird fights, like the one against Semtex, Paul Daly, where it was a Bellator main event, right? Part of that tournament was supposed to be this big deal. If he does that, let's say, the Pirate hurts him early, it could be enough to kind of discipline him where, maybe Magomedov wins this, yet it's still a little bit of fool's gold in terms of how good he actually is. He also could get exposed. So I think either way, it's going to be a spectacle, this fight. It's going to be very interesting in that regard. All right. Wow. Long Island Luke in the chat talking about row 8. That's right. Yeah, that's where he's living. All right. That is definitely where he's living. All right. A couple more at the end. Alan, oh, thank you, Alan. 5 diehard. Really? 5? Are you serious? I mean, I'm sure there was a gratuitous one that I completely missed that probably starred that dude from Creators. What's the guy's name? Yeah, I mean, he was probably the guy that did the unnecessary Indiana Jones movie. That guy was probably in that one too. All right, I'm talking to my own self right here. Thank you. I like Lazy Bed. Thanks, brother. Charles Barkley, Shut Up and Jam on Sega. You remember? No, I know. I remember the title. I did not play that one, so I don't have it. But I think I told you that. Although I think I finally threw it all away because my Sega was at the point a couple years ago where I could still play it, but I had to tape the wire, at the right angle to get. It's similar to blowing on the cartridge with Nintendo, which is also a thing for Sega. Blowing on the cartridge, but then also you have to manipulate that wire and just pin it at the right moment to get that spark. And I could do it, but it wouldn't hold. I mean, I was playing NHL 94 not that long ago on it until I finally just gave up and was so frustrated. But when my kids were smaller, we played Greatest Heavyweights, which was a great Sega boxing game. And we played NHL 94 and I got him in, and I've said it before, but my best friend Bogo and I, for some reason, we fell into Jerry Glanville's Pigskin Foot Brawl that came out after Jerry Glanville, the journeyman NFL coach who would always buy a ticket for Elvis in the crowd every game in the front row, by the way, had that medieval football game after the success he had with the 91 Falcons, leading them, that too legit to quit crew, to the playoffs. And the game is ridiculous. It's like a Aussie rules football, rugby / medieval arch rivals, but you can stab people's hearts. You know what I mean? And then and it was cool because if you got up too much on the other team and you were winning by too much, then they could send in the troll. And this hunchback green skin troll would come out and he would Teen Wolf the shit out of the game and look like Jim Thorpe in there. And he would just score unmercifully against you and stab all your teammates. It was gripping stuff. So everyone seems to have that weird oddball Sega game that their parents randomly bought them once and they just lived on it and played it 5,000 times over the next 12 to 15 years. Yeah, that's me and that, but not with Charles Barkley Shut Up and Jam. Some of the other models. So, but thank you, Lazy Bed. Maybe you had that out there in Scotland. Where Lazy Bed, are you from the UK or am I misreading you completely here? You know what I mean? It's not like I actually know these guys' social security numbers or blood types, nor am I necessarily looking for that. AZ Ray videos, though, Arturo, I know this guy's blood type. Thoughts on Alex Pereira's sister, Aline? She is awesome in fighting this Saturday on Karate Combat. Did not know that. Thank you. I have seen a few highlights of her, and she does look to. It's a family tradition, right? They can knock you out with some vicious kicks. Is she going to end up climbing the ladder and going to the UFC? Because that would be interesting. We've seen younger brothers before, and it's rare, maybe outside of the Diaz's, that they're almost sort of equal level in ability and in stardom at various points. To be fair, it's usually the Tony Gwynn, Chris Gwynn thing, right? In that regard. That was his brother, right? Yeah. Or Hank Aaron's brother played a cup of coffee. It's stuff like that. I know we got Toporia's brother trying it out to try to get some rub. I mean, maybe the Pettises had a good thing going, because Sergio caught up. He kind of caught up. I mean, it's not on a Wheaties box, but he kind of caught up, right? I want to see this now with a sister, your sister. Don't forget my neighbor growing up, Joe the barber. You know what I mean? If I would see him, he'd be like, "How sister?" It would be like, "Okay, sir, you're creeping me out." But yeah, she's good. Wow. Okay, great stuff. That we look back on our lives at things that were just hilarious, and then we're like, "Okay, that was ravagingly inappropriate." All right, that's great. That's what happens when you get raised in a 7-Eleven. Okay, that's what I got. Alan W. I found this one in here. By several accounts, Angle beat Brock in a legit shoot wrestling match. I mean, do I have a hole in my hotel room one-man cam videos, shoot interviews history and not knowing this? I'm sure it happened. I'm sure Angle's an absolute animal in there. I mean, I guess what are we saying? That he would take Brock down, even though Brock's so much bigger, with technique, and then ultimately get him in like a submission, like a Kimura or something. I mean, I guess it's possible. Brock could take a little bit of a beating, though, not to the face, but in totality. I'm still gonna F with Brock, but I don't know if a shoot fight in a locker room necessarily has the same parameters as an actual MMA fight in a UFC cage. But there we go. Whatever. Alan W. speaking Sega with me. Buster Douglas actually had a fun boxing game. Thank you, Alan W., for your love and support. Dude, that was a really good game. And that was, I think that was supposed to be Evander Holyfield's game. And he ultimately eventually got one. But that game was good, Buster Douglas. I particularly remember playing that game and renting it. And, I rented it at a place because it was the 80s that had, the back room with the curtain, and sometimes if nobody was looking, you could get back there and check it out. You know what I mean? But are you a dirt hole? That's really what I'm looking to find out. Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say here? I guess not. Yeah. Merry Christmas right back at you, Dave Sandine. Thank you guys for weathering the storm that was me talking in circles for multiple hours, and you supporting this great channel here, the Brian Campbell Experience, the original name, by the way, the BCX, baby. Thank you for coming by here and talking ish with me and talking in circles. I mean, does this make me look younger or older? I can't figure it out. I mean, maybe I break even in that regard, but I'm 46 with an attitude. And 16 will still give you 20. Okay, believe that. Also, what would you do if your son was at home, on the bedroom floor because he's he's lonely, right? I mean, where are we going with this, right? You know what I mean? 5'5" with brown eyes, right? Smile like the sunrise. Thank you. Take care of yourselves up here, okay? You can do this. Now the winters, they suck, weather catastrophes, that sucks. Okay, death in the family. Look, there's breakups. These things suck. Okay, but you can get back up. Believe that. All right, execute that. That's what I'm talking about. All right. And February 1st, Benavidez, Morel. Let's do this thing. What row are you sitting in? Row 8. Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, I know that row. All right. Last word goes to Alan W. Yeah, okay, yeah, you could, fully. That's a fully, Alan. Thank you guys. Morning Combat Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Let's get ready for the weekend. Don't forget Inoue Friday morning as well against Pacquiao Weather. So check that out. Check yourselves out. Check out the content on my channel. Thank you, Mikey. And we are Reggie. I mean, he was kind of a co-star. He was a problem on set, like Alec Baldwin with that gun mishap. I wouldn't trust a firearm around that cat, but we're out of here. That